All right, good evening, Pours with Patriots. I'm here with an old friend. Haven't seen you in a while.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. So here, thanks everybody for tuning in to episode 18. Otto was one of my tougher guys to get on. It took a little while to coax him, and I think I started hitting you up about 3 months ago.
Sounds about right.
Finally broke his will, which is I feel good about that. But I'd like to welcome Otto to episode 18 of Pours with Patriots. Thanks for coming on. And as you can see, it's good to have another Army guy back in the basement. We had a Marine a couple weeks ago. It always pained me to have to take down the Army flag, so I'm glad to see that up. So welcome, Otto. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
And we will start with a quote. We'll get into this. If you can probably figure out what his MOS was. I don't think we talked about any of the tweets or podcasts or anything that I put out. So you should be able to tell this if you were in the Army before. So nothing happens until something moves. You call, we haul. Any climb in any place. No road too tough. No distance too far. And those are all anonymous quotes from people that are in transportation. 88 Mike. So Otto was a former 88 Mike in the U.S. Army. Like many of my guests, is from Ohio originally, right?
I am.
Pretty close here.
Correct.
Steubenville.
Or
still don't know where that's at. I've been here for 9 years. So
as locals call it, Stupidville.
I've actually never heard that. So I still don't exactly know where Steubenville is. So that's pretty bad. I guess I'll have to Google that later on. But and we have a friend, another mutual friend that's close from that area too, right?
Yeah, Dave McClain.
We have to call him out. So that's Stupidville. I have to use that from again. I'll direct that towards you, Dave. So that kind of makes a lot of sense now, knowing that.
Yeah, just go 35 miles west of Pittsburgh, and that's where we are.
Nice. And what's exciting for me is that actually I think Otto is the second person that's older than me that's been on the podcast. So that's super important. We had a doctor earlier, definitely way older than both of us, but you got me by a couple years, so I feel good. The young guy on the podcast tonight makes me feel good. As you can't tell that the beard's growing back, it's getting gray. That I feel like I look older than you with the gray beard, though. So.
Yeah, it's a fat baby face.
The round chubbiness.
Correct.
Like it, so you grew up in like Steubenville area the whole time, and graduated a couple years before I did, 1988. Right?
Correct. Yep.
You playing sports in high school?
Football and baseball.
What was your number one sport?
Football.
What position?
Wide receiver, defensive back, and place kicker.
Place kicker?
Yeah.
Farthest field goal?
0. I was the extra point guy.
I don't remember them kicking field goals that much when we were growing up.
No, I think our whole senior year we might have kicked 3. So
now you see these high school kids that can drill like 40 yards,
right?
50 yards. It's crazy. But it's harder back then. That's all we'll say. It's harder to kick back then. I guess that's the only.
I don't know. Now you can't use a tee. We used to have like a block you kicked off. Now I think it's just right off the ground.
You're supposed to be helping me with it being harder. I don't know, like. You kicked up.
The kids are more athletic now. That's what it is.
Yeah, they're more focused.
Yeah.
More athletic. Love it. So you graduated from Steubenville. You stay local?
Jefferson Union High School,
okay.
kind of out in the country. And and then came up here to Columbus, to Capital University, and have been here ever since.
All right. So Capital's another school close to here, and you don't hear much about it because obviously one of the things we'll talk about later is Otto's a huge OSU football fan. I never hear him talk about any Capital sports, but he's an OSU guy. So that's,
do they have sports at Capital?
Do they have a football team there?
They have football equipment. I'm not sure they field much of a team.
Wow, he's going after his alma mater. That's great. So you attended Capital from 88 to 92. Got your undergraduate business administration, right?
Yes.
So you're doing that, but before that, you actually during that time frame, you get the hair like many of us did and decide to join the Army, right?
I did. I was studying for exams my junior year, and then George Bush came on the radio and said the invasion in Iraq was going on, so I went and joined the next day. So
how'd that work out for you?
I don't know. I was never thought about the military. My twin brother was already in the Army National Guard, and kind of like a lot of people with 9/11, it just resonated, and I went and joined the next day, and then called my mom and dad and told them, and my mom's like, "Oh, that's great. You can both go over and get killed." So she wasn't she was kind of in shock. She wasn't real happy, but after I went, they were all really supportive. But
Right.
I don't think she wanted us both getting deployed. But one of the best things I ever did. So
yeah, it's funny. I think at that time frame I was the same. I mean, you're a little bit older than I was. I'm going to point that out every chance I can. But I know exactly because I was in college when it happened, so I thought the same thing. And I talked about it a couple weeks ago. I thought it was going to be cool and do that, and my dad pretty much shut that down pretty quick. It is funny to hear stories about 9/11. I'm not only, but the in 1991 when that happened, everybody that joined the military and thinking there was going to be this long, sustained war, and it was over so quick, and all these people were like, "Oh my gosh, now I'm in the Army where the war is over." So it's always it's funny because it's funny I think for the people in the military, but for me it was because you had all these stories when I came in '94 on active duty. All these people had that same story that like, yeah, I joined up hoping I was going to go to the Gulf War and missed out on it. You're just like, and a lot of them were upset about it. I think. I mean, initially.
Yeah, I mean, we thought, we went in during wartime and thought that, there's a good chance we might get deployed. And then right about the start of AIT, it was over. So it's kind of like a disappointment. I don't say disappointment, but you were geared up, ready to go. And then it kind of got tamped down.
I think disappointment's a good word. If you decided to enlist and join the military with the hopes that, or not the hopes, but with the understanding that the country's at war and they're going to go to war and it doesn't happen, I think they are disappointed. I mean, when I got bumped back from going to Afghanistan, I was disappointed. I think disappointment's a good word. I mean, because it's not originally what you thought, and things change, right?
Yeah, I mean, when someone asked me about, why did I join, and I was prepared to go. Thank God every day I didn't have to go, and I have a special place in my heart for people in the military that actually had to go do things that they had to do to protect our freedom. And, I was willing to do it, but thankful every day that I didn't have to do it. So.
Right. So you come back from AIT, you thought you were going to go to the Gulf. You decide that doesn't happen. You come back and you're back in school still, right?
Yeah. So I came back 2 or 3 weeks late, and they were going to try to make me sit out a semester, and I had to go beg, borrow, and steal to make up classes so I wouldn't delay graduation. So I was able to do that. So I got to graduate on time with everybody.
So but real quick, we did jump over some. We're not, you're in the military, but what's interesting about Otto is we're going to talk about it a little bit during the podcast, hopefully. But it's a good story. Is you come from a long line of. Usually the first question I ask is people, were people in your family in the military. So you come from a family that has a lot of military service. I think the most unique is like your father-in-law who actually served in the South Vietnamese Army, correct?
Correct. My wife immigrated from Vietnam in 1975. So her dad was a lawyer in the South Vietnamese Army. So when the embassy fell, they got evacuated and were sponsored by the Catholic Church and came through New York to Columbus, Ohio. They were sponsored by the diocese. So he didn't speak English, and he would have to go back to law school for a couple years. And with the language barrier, he didn't do that. He went and got an engineering degree from Franklin, and he was a mechanical engineer for McDonnell Douglas and then DHL. So he rebuilt airplanes.
Nice. So then also in your family history, your grandfather served in World War II, right?
Yeah, he was one of the 90-day wonders. Went to officers basic and then was shipped to Italy. We're still not sure. His records were some of the ones that were lost when the records archives was burnt down in St. Louis. But what we think we could piece together is he went in after combat and rounded up all the weapons and was supposed to, I underscore supposed to, throw them all in the ocean and dispose of them. But he was able to send them home piece by piece. So we have a pretty nice collection of some Mausers and things that are real unique. So
he was like bootlegging weapon parts.
Yeah. Back when you could like stuff it in the barrel of a tank or hide it or send it home piece by piece. So
that must be neat to have those and see that. Did you ever get to talk to him about how he did it, or?
No, he never talked about, like a lot of the old timers. They never talked about it. We would see some pictures but he never. Not once, and I regret not ever asked him, but he never talked about it at all.
That'd be a neat story to see how you got all this stuff.
Yeah.
He's got 27 weapons. How'd you get it back? You're like, oh, don't worry about it.
My recollection is he used to mail them home piece by piece to my grandmother, and then when he got home, he'd put them all back together. So some have matching serial numbers, and some are kind of mismatched, pieced together ones.
I feel like right now, just for clarification, if you don't know, you would definitely go to jail for that nowadays if you're doing that. But that was pretty predominant back then. They were sending back all kinds of weapons and memorabilia. It's pretty. That would be pretty. That's great that you guys still have them. That's pretty neat. And the whole family knows the story about that.
Yep,
that's cool. That's cool. So then now you have your father too that enlisted in the Ohio Army National Guard also during the Vietnam era, right?
Correct. He never got deployed, but he was in the Ohio National Guard, and when they deployed the National Guard for the Ohio prison riots, he was in one of the Ohio Penitentiary when they did that as one of the guards. And then my twin brother, my brother-in-law, my nephew, one of my cousins is a Fulmer colonel in Space Force.
We have to get him on because I have a Space Force flag. I've been dying to put on there, so we have to get him on just so we can put up the Space Force flag and actually talk to somebody.
Yeah,
Space Force.
We raised when we were growing up. We raised all kind of hell. They lived in Alexandria, Virginia, and we'd go knock on doors and run. And then he'd come to Ohio, and we'd bomb cars with corn and tomatoes. And so when he was going through his promotions, he said, "Yeah, I'm going to go to the Pentagon, or I'm going to get my own nuclear missile battery." And I'm like, "Do they background check people? Because if you get your own nuclear missile battery command, I'm going to move to Canada or somewhere." But yeah, now he's in Space Force. They plucked him he was running the ROTC at Virginia Tech.
Okay.
And then they came to him and said they needed some officers for Space Force. So he's out in Colorado somewhere and does something with positioning satellites for imagery and stuff.
Yeah, the Space Force, everybody knows, is the newest branch. I still every time I say it or somebody talks about the Space Force, I don't know why I just start laughing, and then it's horrible. They're doing some important things, but so that's why you see me smiling and laughing. It's a serious thing, and then of course there's a Netflix TV show, Space Force, and unfortunately I watched that, so that's where my mind goes all the way, which is horrible to be.
I can't promise he'll be much fun to talk to because everything classified.
Can't talk about
classified.
So I'm just more about being able to hang up the flag. Honestly, that'd be pretty cool to put up the space. It came in the package, I guess. So, like we said before, was there any, that you had family members in the past? Some, I guess, have said that was one of the driving forces of why they joined the military. So, was yours more driven by had the Gulf War not happened in '91? Would you have joined?
Not at all. I respected everyone's service, but I had no interest in it, mainly because I was super vain. And back when I had hair, I refused to cut it that short. So I was like, ain't no way I'm getting a crew cut. And then, I was sitting there studying, and he came on TV in the area we were studying in, and I told everyone I'm joining tomorrow, and that was the beginning of it. So
that is interesting because I was expecting to say yes. I felt like I was drawn there, but I wanted to do something different. But that isn't, and we talked about that before. I think it is crazy the ties of, usually the family ties is what draws you in. But there have been events that's what I thought was great about your story, is that a pretty significant event in our time. I mean, I didn't think it would ever happen again, honestly, and happen, a few years later. But that was the same thing I felt when you saw that on TV and what was going on. And if you had people in your family that served or were serving, you were like, oh shit, it's my time to pay the piper. Right. So that is interesting. I mean, I luckily my dad talked me out of it, reasonably and in a nice way, but not really. He just told me you're not doing it, but.
Yeah, I think
I'm glad I listened to him.
I think I might have called my twin brother Dave and said something to him, but other than that, the only people that knew about it were my fraternity brothers sitting around the table that night. And
what did they think? Would they think you're bullshitting?
They thought I was crazy. They're like, "You're not going to do that." And then I came back, and they're like, "Holy crap!" So, but yeah, I don't know. It's it just comes over you, and you're like, boom, I'm doing it. So.
Well, I don't think that's the thing is that's why I wanted to let you keep talking, because I think that's the funny thing. There's a lot of people that don't. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people that remember, 9/11, but to go back to see that there is things that do compel people to do things that they didn't think they ever would do. And I think that's what's amazing about veterans. And that's one of the reasons I've been trying to get you to come on. One of the first times we talked, you said like, my story is not important. No one really, basically, no one cares. I was only in the National Guard for a little bit. I didn't go anywhere, which is, that's not the truth. I mean, like I've been trying to tell you that's your most unique story, I think, is of your military service. Like you had all these people that were in the military serving that have a long history, and you weren't going to do it until you felt it was right.
Yeah, I had no intentions to go in. So
thanks, Saddam. That's
yeah.
But so you come back. You're in the National Guard now. They assigned you to what was the 737 maintenance company?
Well, I was in the unit in Steubenville, transportation company, and then my brother and I decided to go to the Ohio Military Academy for Officers Candidate School, and then I had my third interview for my first job out of college, and I had to leave on request from the academy to get a job to pay the bills, and just kind of wrote out my enlistment as a specialist in the 737 Maintenance Battalion headquarters in Mount Vernon, and then decided to go to law school to become try to get a spot in the JAG Corps. And then after I graduated, talked to the guys up at Beetler Armory, and then went home and told my wife I was getting back in, and she's like, well, no, you're not, because I'm pregnant. So I didn't think it was a very responsible thing to do to get back in knowing I was probably going to get deployed with a child on the way. So that was kind of the end of the whole military career.
I love how he just blew through that, that whole time frame that he was in the Guard for 6 years, 2 inactive. I graduated from law school, was going to be a Jaguar, but we're going to hopefully talk a little bit more detail. But he just blew through that like it's no big deal. So you decided to go to law school. I asked you the same question earlier today when we talked. You had no intention to be a lawyer, but you wanted to be a JAG lawyer. That's the only reason you went
I blame that on Tom Cruise and Top Gun, and for whatever reason, I always had an infatuation with, being a military attorney. And at that point, after being in the military, since my grandfather was an officer, I thought it'd be really cool to become an officer. And then when, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to get back in, I didn't want to practice in the civilian world. So started out a salesman and still a salesman. So
yeah, but I think it's great that I would either say that he might be easily influenced by big Saddam got him and Tom Cruise got you. So you got he's very susceptible. I hope that your wife Betty keeps you under you're not going to do something crazy at this age. A new TV show is going to come on, movie. You're going to try to do something crazy. But I thought that was funny. I didn't ask you earlier about the military thing, but that is funny to have 2 pretty significant life events. To join the military. Just go to law school for your service to the military and the country. I think that's a pretty amazing thing, if you ask me personally.
It would have been really cool if it worked out.
But it didn't. But I mean, things don't. I mean, you got your law degree, right?
I did.
So you could have practiced law. I feel like that worked out, right?
Yeah, not a good use of $80,000. But
did you use the GI Bill at all?
No, they don't. They didn't have it at that time for graduate programs.
Okay.
So
you had to be ABC and always be closing with a sales job to pay that back.
Or,
I don't know if that's a failure though. I mean,
or ABB, always be borrowing.
That's true too. That's true too. But so law school. So what? Even after you decide that, or you understand you can't go in because of Isabella being born, right? Or on the way.
Correct.
There was no. You didn't fall in love with law to say hey, I want to do this. On the civilian side, I mean, what was your mindset? Because that's one thing I can't understand. You did, you graduated from law school 4 years, you're $80,000 in debt. Just give it a go, right? That's what I would think. And then 2 years, be yeah, I didn't like it. But I mean, what was your thought process then?
So as I was saying earlier, before the podcast started, it's billable hours or a sales quota, and to me they were the same. And I was going to have more control over my time by being a sales rep than, being a first-year associate at a firm, working 60, 70 hours, whatever, a week. It just, to me, I was in more control by staying in sales. I did do some mergers and acquisitions stuff with one of my buddies, so I did kind of get to use my law degree without actually, representing a client or, not practicing law without a license, as they say. I didn't do that ever.
Just like his grandfather brought all those guns back legally, everybody. Now, but so that time, like I'm glad I asked you that question just because you elaborated on it a little bit more. So you obviously thought about it pretty seriously. You looked at it. You just didn't do it. Like, I didn't get what I want, so now I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm taking my toys and leaving the sandbox. What did like your family think? What did your wife think? What did your parents think? Like, you just went to law school for 4 years. You obviously were sacrificing things at that time. What did like the outside people, like your brothers, say? What was the external, static? Or
they were all supportive. I mean, I can't recall anyone actually saying, "Wow, you're not going to use it," or "What are you going to do next?" I also, people back in 92 or 2002, everyone was going to get a master's. Like, that was the big thing, is get a graduate degree. And part of my thought process was, well, if I go get a master's in business, everyone now has a master's. So if I go get a Juris Doctorate, it's, one step better than, or I won't say better, but one step more along than a master's degree. So I thought it might differentiate me more than just having a master's degree. So that was kind of one of the thought processes as well.
Because I feel like some of the people who would be supporting me would have been like, "Are you an idiot? You went." I probably would have said the same thing. Like, "Otto, are you an idiot? Like, you went to law school for 4 years." Like, I would have just, like, for me, I personally would have been like, "Give it a go," like that. But I get it. I mean, I'm glad that you thought it through. Obviously, it worked out for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't what you wanted, but I just feel like that's an interesting. That's a lot of commitment, because I'm sure you were married. How long you were married all during law school, or part of it?
We got married in 1999, so yeah, it would have been my first or second year of law school. And it was crazy because my wife was getting her master's degree, so she had classes Tuesdays, Thursdays. I had class Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that might have been a good thing. We're newly married. We never saw each other.
Recipe for success,
right?
There.
And probably the only one that, now that I think about it, that called me an idiot was my brother, but he does that every day. So it's not.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday, pretty much. Him and David. What do you expect of me? Your brothers? That's what brothers are for. I don't have a brother, but I mean, I watch my son do that. I mean, I call my sister an idiot still. Like, but you know what I mean? She probably feels the same way about me. That's all right. But so we'll take a break here. We'll have a whiskey break. Are you ready for a whiskey break?
Sure.
You brought a pretty original bottle we haven't seen here in these neck of the woods.
Yeah, a bottle from South Carolina, from a little distillery on Lake Murray.
So it obviously is working out early, because when he said today why he brought the bottle, he has his retirement house early already in South Carolina. So he said you were benching away from your retirement house and you found Hollow Creek Distillery, which, like you said before, is in Leesville, South Carolina, right?
Correct.
This distillery was founded pretty recently, 2016, by a husband and wife combination, Craig and Meredith Amick. Which I think you said you met them, right? Though
I did.
Okay.
They work the distillery. I think it's open Thursday through Sunday.
Right. And if any of the craft or smaller distilleries, that the owners and everybody's there. It's not like if you go to Jim Beam, we'll talk about, you're not going to run into one of the master distillers every time. But this distillery, Hollow Creek Distillery, is pretty much known initially for their flavored varieties of moonshine. They have like 8 that they sell. They have some other products. They have like a 34.08 whiskey, they call it, high cotton bourbon, and then they actually have their version of Fireball, the white hot cinnamon whiskey. But the bottle you brought, the William Allen Straight whiskey, is their first namesake bourbon, they call it. And I couldn't find online when they came out with it, but their idea was to produce a product that went back to their heritage. They're both the husband and wife. Their families have been working in that area for 9 years, so that's where they came up with the name. And it was more. It's funny with the smaller distilleries like this; it's hard to find a lot of information on them because they're so new. But what's interesting about this bottle, like many, I'm excited because you and I get a chance to have so many different whiskeys. This is something I've never had, so I'm pretty excited about that. like a lot of the newer distilleries, they don't have their mash bill is not. They don't let everybody know what their mash bill is. It's undisclosed, but they do say that it's a high malt grain mash bill. This one's 90 proof. It is 4 years old, minimum of 4 years old. And what they do also is they actually age them. They actually finish them off in toasted barrels for a minimum of another 3 months. So it's a pretty cool product. And what's neat about this is probably can't see it here on the sticker here, but they did win the World's Spirits Competition gold in San Francisco in 2002. And at the time, also the distillery, Hollow Creek Distillery, was named the South Carolina Distillery of the Year. So thanks for bringing that. Excited to try it. A little low proof, but low proof is good when you're sitting and talking and drinking sometimes. So I'm excited for it. It is different.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good. You can't get like the malt the malt grain. I can get that. It's it reminds me of Stranahan's. Have you had Stranahan's before?
No.
It reminds me a lot of that. So, but thanks for bringing that. And like I said before, if you're there, stop by and see Otto. His retirement home's there off the lake. I don't know if he's got on Airbnb yet, but that might be an idea.
It will be this spring.
Oh, nice. Okay. I didn't know that. That sounds like a fun.
Yeah, it's relaxing. It's a peaceful.
Good
getaway.
cleaning fee costs. That's my only thing about Airbnb.
What's that?
You got to have a reasonable cleaning cost. I think that's my only.
Yeah,
crap about Airbnb.
It can't be over $150.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like you book Airbnb, and then all of a sudden you see the price, and you do the final price, and they add some ridiculous.
Yeah, management fee, resort fee, cleaning fee.
And then when you get there, there's like a list of 27 things you have to do. And then when you do those 27 things, I'm sitting there and I'm just like,
it's mostly clean.
Number one, most of the time I'm doing hungover because we do this a lot, Airbnbs for barrel picks. So you're hungover, you do these 27 things, and then you think, Jesus Christ, who am I paying $200? What are they going to do? Who are they paying $250? We just did all the goddamn work. So if you do it, reasonable Airbnb cleaning fees. That's all I say to anybody that has Airbnb property. Sorry, that kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, I agree with you.
Airbnb.
I 100% agree.
Because I'm an Airbnb guy. My old job, I used to travel a lot. I spent too much time in hotels, especially Marriott properties. I just had to go to one this past weekend. I'm miserable because like you're in a hotel. So I love Airbnbs, but like lately, when it first started, it was like, this is great. I'm getting a good deal. But then all of a sudden you get what I just talked about. Unreasonable cleaning fees. Don't have me do 900 things for you and then charge me $700. And to stay there the night was $250. That's what I can't figure out. It's like,
strip the bed, start the first load of laundry, do the dishes.
Yeah, make sure the dishes and the silverware goes in the thing. I'm like, I've loaded a fucking dishwasher before. I know how it works.
Take out the trash.
It is crazy. And then don't put in the cameras in there because I didn't know that was a thing. Like people putting cameras inside the Airbnb, but. Just giving you're a lawyer, not a practicing lawyer, but
only on the hot tub. That's it.
That's crazy. But I'm looking forward to it. Now we have a reason to go down to the Airbnb. That's cool. I'm looking forward to that. So thanks for being that. So we're talking. You graduated from law. You just blew through 6 years of the military. You didn't really talk about anything in the military.
Well, and, I mean, not picking on the High National Guard, but they don't do themselves much justice as far as retention.
Right.
And I think it's a problem. I think when I was in the maintenance battalion headquarters, we were in the commo section, and they would never let us go out and train units in the battalion. They didn't have the money for it. They wouldn't cut orders for it. So we would try to act like we were busy, and we'd, do what we needed to do and then go find some place to hide. And then we'd get in trouble for staying out of the way. So
damned if you do and damned if you don't.
So it wasn't a good use of the soldiers' time. It wasn't a good use of taxpayers' money. And so when it got towards the end of my enlistment, they said, do you want to re-enlist? I'm like, I have probably some better things I could do with my time. And that's when I knew I was going to go to law school. So,
but it's a different time. So I think one of the things to talk about is that obviously you guys can tell by the way that Otto's talking, he's way older than I am. But I can relate to what he's talking about. But you're talking about a time frame of when, military op tempo for even active duty was a lot different than what you would see, nowadays right now. Right now we have, one of the guys that helps to run the podcast is in the middle of getting ready to deploy Ohio National Guard. So there's definitely it's changed. I think you started off your career and I started off my career at the same time. It was a post-war. I mean, yes, I will say the Gulf War happened, but like it happened really quickly and it didn't impact a lot of people. There wasn't like this prolonged thing. And then, there wasn't really an understanding of what the next step was. Back then we were still training to fight the Soviet Union, that kind of thing. And I can understand that back then. I was in the Guard myself. And I mean, I remember most of the time we like ate hot dogs, played combat basketball. And I don't remember, we went on a couple of training exercises, but I don't remember being super engaged in my my reserve unit as well. So, I say that now because I know there are people listening right now that are like, what the hell is Otto talking about? I'm doing all these kind of stuff. But, there's a big change that happened in after 9/11 and all these reserve units that have gotten called up and it got pretty serious for a lot of people who didn't think it was serious at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, my nephew's in now and he's been deployed once to Afghanistan and I can't remember exactly where you went, but he went somewhere in the Middle East. And then it seems like he gets deployed more often, like on some type of rotation where when I was in between, the Iraq war and Afghanistan, like you said, there wasn't really anything to do. And it was kind of like a calm time to be in. And, I think that they had a lot of retention problems because of that. Cause you would lose interest and think that you had something better you could spend your time on.
Well, I think at the time for me, you remember people like I've always knew that's what I want to do. So I'm not right in that aspect. So there was those people that they always want to do that. They knew that. So no matter what, if we were sitting around, we just thought that was cool because we were doing what we want to do. Then you had a lot of people that joined like you did for, they thinking the war was going to be a long thing. They joined. And then there were a lot of people I still remember as late as like 2002 before people thought 2003, when people thought that, Afghanistan, Iraq weren't going to be as long as they were and really joined the military for educational benefits. So I'm not surprised when you say that. I just want to talk about that because it is a leap forward, like, 20 years to now where we're at. It's a different ballgame. Back then, you have people right now that if you join the Army National Guard and you think that you're not going anywhere,
yeah, you're wrong.
You're an idiot. Like, honestly, like you're like, sorry, you're an idiot. But then again, like there are places you can go that you're not worried about that. But I think that's it's fun to have somebody that honestly lived through that time of the military, because a lot of people I've had on there, they came in later and they don't understand what it was like back then. I mean, they really, and then we did have the sprinkle of like Vietnam veterans in there too, which is
right. Yeah,
we had crazy. That's I forget about, like you have some 79-year-old Vietnam. They weren't that old, but they were old. Like, how is this guy still in the Army?
Yeah,
it was a crazy time.
We'd have probably not a term they liked us to call them, but we had a lot of retreads. That were in the Marines and they would came to the Army Guard or the Air Force that came over. But I think now the GI Bill is a lot more attractive than it was when I was in. I think I got $190 a month.
Yeah. And
once I graduated or once a certain time frame was up, it was gone. Like now you can pass it on to your kids or, I think it's up to $100 and some $1,000 they give you for school, where it wasn't anything near that when I was in.
Yeah, no, there's definitely I remember when I first came in, they started they'd garnish your wages for a year. And then, for that. And at the time you're like, I'm never going to go back to school. And it is crazy to watch that evolve. Like, I actually got my master's degree with my GI Bill. And then I just had enough left that when I first moved here to, I got my MBA, but when I first moved here to Columbus, I had like a year and a couple months worth of eligibility. So I just decided, you know what? I was before the transfer to your children, which it's funny. Like you're probably in that post like, oh, post 9/11, it sucked. I couldn't use it how I wanted. And then I was like, this is great. But then at the end of it, I was like, this sucks that I can't take a year and take one, the year and a half and take it to send to one of my sons. But It is great how that has evolved where, if you're not familiar with that or the podcast, we do talk a lot of shit about the VA. But the educational part, I think they've actually knocked that out of the park where you can, as a veteran, use that. They pay you good money to get education. So it is an incentive to stay in. Back then the incentive was really that you really wanted to be there. And I don't blame people like you that were like, I signed up for this reason and this isn't happening and I'm not being engaged the way I want to, and I'm leaving. That's understandable. I lived in that Army for a long time. I have friends that did 4 years as officers and were like, I'm out. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, if you're unmotivated and you have a bad attitude because you're bored, it wasn't good for me, and it wasn't probably good for the other people in the unit, although most of them, probably, were bored or unmotivated because we just sat around. But yeah, everyone has a reason for joining, and anything else, you get out of it what you put into it. And guard wise, it was always a frustration of, even if you wanted to go to PLDC or whatever I don't know what they call it now. They call it something else. But if there were no slots, then you couldn't go. So then if you didn't want to transfer to another unit, or if you were in the reserves, go to another state, there wasn't very many chances to move up in rank or move up in position. So it seemed always like a chess game. If I do this, I can't do that. Or if I don't do this, I can't do this. So, but I guess that's, employment wise, that's not too much different from some careers. So
no, it is. It sounds, and that's what it is. Everybody realizes that the military is a calling, but at the end of the day, it is a career that some people choose. Some people, choose to stay in, 30 years. Some people, choose to stay in longer and only make it a year. Now, but no, some people do their initial, their initial enlistment or their initial contract, and they're gone. And I think it's always funny. Like, that's one of the things was when we were talking initially, I felt like you felt like you got, you went in, you really didn't do much, so you're not worth talking about. And Jake actually posted something that said everybody matters. And I think that's the story that every veteran's story does matter, because I'm shocked that when I asked that question earlier about, you have all this heritage, military lineage in your family, that you were like, no, I didn't. If it wasn't for that, I would have never went in. I mean, that to me is pretty admirable, because I can't understand that. I always do what I want to do, and I'm not going to do anything unless I don't want to do it. So, does that makes me sound super narcissistic? But no, I mean that the way that I want to do it, like I could never have imagined my career in the military and why I wanted to do it for any of the reasons other than what I felt like. I knew for a long time that's what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? And if somebody if I wanted to be a lawyer, I just know my personality, or I want to do something else, I don't know if I would have had the self, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but the way the self-assessment to change what I was already doing. I'd be like, screw this. This is what I want to do. I'm not gonna do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my brother's going to chime in. I know.
I think he's already that's why we got to do that. But
I thought law school was easy. I mean, I would watch Blue Jackets or Penguins. I don't know. Well, it probably wasn't Blue Jackets. They probably weren't around then. But I'd watch NHL hockey, sit there, read my books, make margins in the notes, and I was probably one of the most talkative people in class. Probably, and I was working full time and going to law school full time at night. Probably graduated with a B minus. I didn't find it to be overly difficult. Now the bar exam, that's nothing to play with. That was hard. And I missed like by 6 points, and then my daughter was born. I didn't take it again, but yeah, I don't if you have good reading comprehension, it wasn't that bad.
I don't think Capital University is like hearing this. Well,
that's all right.
The law, like it is. It's probably harder now than it was. No, but I mean, I get it. But I think anybody you obviously were a driven guy, so I'm not surprised by that. If you just talk about what you were doing, you were in the National Guard, you were working, and you were going to school at the same time. So obviously, there's you were driven to be successful. You wouldn't have got to where you were at that point or where you're at today if you weren't driven and a successful guy.
Yeah, it was a goal to go to law school, not necessarily to practice. So, and then I can't remember if it was my brother or me and my wife. We had a bet who would get their doctorate first. So that was one of the driving factors, because I hate to lose. And so then when I graduated, I was like, I win, and whoever I had bet was like, no, you didn't. You don't have your doctorate. And I was like, what's the diploma say? Juris Doctorate. I said, I win. So
I love it. He's just doing everything to prove that. Winnie, I'm glad your wife or Betty has gotten you under control, where hopefully you don't let him don't let him bet stuff he can't, he's getting too old to, for everything to be a competition.
We're
not that old yet.
There's still gas in the tank.
Yeah, there is. I know we're not that old yet. But so your brother did post something. I'm sure it's your brother. We can't see this, but Josh, you got to put that quote back out. So we have to talk about this. Your brother said, ask him about him skipping his brother's graduation from a basic, and when I went to see him graduate basic. So your brother has obviously not forgetting that you talked about he was studying, not really because he said it was easy. He was basically watching hockey, hanging out in Capitol. That's why he didn't come see it.
No, he was. It was after we graduated high school. He was one of those. I think he joined in high school, but he had delayed start for boot camp. And I had aspirations of playing football at Capitol. I thought I was more athletic than what reality really was. And I said I had to stay home and work out for football because I had to go to football camp. And so I had this big rip-roaring party, and I hid my dad's beer, and then we ran out of beer. So we drank my dad's beer, and my parents came home and said, you're not taking your car to college because you had a party. We told you no parties. And I lied about it for 2 weeks. And my dad finally came and said, your mom put magic marker marks on all the bottom of the cans, and the new beer doesn't have any marks on it. So we know you had a party.
Damn.
So, and then he came to see me graduate, and he was already in, and he shows up in his Class B uniform.
Where's my brother been?
Drill sergeant thinks he's me and starts berating him. And then I walk in the door, and this drill sergeant, he would be like the Kevin Hart type. I mean, the guy was a comedian. He was hysterical. He's doing a double take, couldn't tell us apart. And then we were going over to the mess hall, and drill sergeant comes by, and everybody locks up, and my brother's just standing there, not locking up. And this drill sergeant just starts ripping his face off for not going to parade rest. And my brother's like, look, Sergeant, I'm in. I'm not going to parade rest. I don't have to do that. And so he created all kind of hell. So that's what he's talking about.
He hasn't forgotten, obviously, but I feel like it's confession time when you talked about taking beers, right, from your parents. So my dad, we lived in Germany, so my dad was very. Have you had apple corn? It's like a German apple liqueur or whatever. So my dad used to love this. I remember like he got a bottle from the class 6 or whatever, and he always had it in the fridge or freezer. And so as I got older, what was great about this is it looks exactly like apple juice. So I would take shots of this and then like put apple juice back to fill it in. I would remember my dad. He's probably going to kill me. He's getting old, so he forgets things, hopefully. But he would drink this, and he'd be talking to people like, you don't understand. The apple corn in Germany is so much stronger because this stuff is in this. And I would just be like, if only you knew, Dad. But that whole bottle is probably all apple juice by the time you got to it. Because my dad didn't drink a lot, but it was in there for years. But I would be like, okay, well, here, Otto, try this. And then
fill it up with apple
juice.
Yeah,
and by the time the plan didn't work well because most of the time we were drinking, it was bad for me because we were just drinking apple juice anyways towards the end of it. I don't know when that balance of apple corn and apple juice. So, a lot of my friends were probably like, this doesn't taste anything but like apple juice. I'm like, no, this is from Germany. It's really good. So I understand the taking the parents' alcohol. My biggest fear, actually, none of my boys are into bourbon, and I don't let any of their friends down here either. So that's a good thing. So we kind of got it. Maybe gave me the idea though. I need to get the marker out and start marking bottles.
I put those little magnetic invisible locks on my bar at home that you have to have a magnet. So I don't know that my daughters have figured it out yet, but they probably have.
Yeah, they probably have. Listen to you talk and knowing your story, they probably figured it out. It's
more of their Uncle Dave. That's probably why they drink my alcohol.
So you guys, we were talking. You guys are identical twins. You say you sound alike. I've never met your brother. So what is the best twin story, like twin switcheroo? Because it's always a switcheroo. Like
I went out with his wife before he did.
Oh, that went.
Yeah.
So you dated her?
That just went out one night, one date. That was it.
That's interesting. But what? I mean, let's go younger. Like any pranks on the because I don't know where that goes. That's like that's interesting. I feel like I need another drink after that. I do. Let me pour that now, quick. So let's go back to more.
Love you, Dave.
See that, Dave? You didn't think that was going to happen. So no pranks growing up, like teenage pranks playing on teachers at school.
In college, we hated each other in high school. We used to get in literally a physical fist fight just about every day growing up. We lived in this little 10 by 15 room from the time we were born till we were 18 years old. And then he went to Akron, I came to Columbus, and we became best friends after we had, some space. So one time he came down to Capitol, and I took him to my speech class, and he went in and sat down in my spot, and the teacher was doing roll call. And so after he said, Mr. Fulmer, and my brother's like, here. And then I walk in and I sit down right next to my brother, and the teacher's like losing it. He's like going back and forth, doesn't know who's who. Other than that we really missed out on great opportunities to cause a lot of hell, because we could have had a lot of fun, but we kind of squandered that. We didn't
fight with each other.
Yeah, all our years of fighting, we lost out on a lot of fun.
So growing up as twins, like identical twins, your parents dressed you the same, or
one of us wore red shoes and one of us wore blue, and this is no joke. Kindergarten, we'd have one red and one blue shoe on. I mean, we'd switch it. And my dad used to be a manager at Lazarus here in Columbus before we moved to Steubenville. And so he worked all the time. And when we were little, he couldn't tell us apart. He'd be like, hey, you, because he didn't know which one was which.
Stop switching those shoes. That's the only way I know who you are.
Yeah.
Because I asked that question. I had friends that were, she upgraded to a real man, your brother said. Do you see that? Your brother he is throwing bombs out there. I love it. He just got you good, by the way. I love it. But no, but I met these. They were older, but they were like big. I mean, identical twins. Like I haven't seen your brother, but I saw that they own a business together, and they were talking about all growing up. Their parents made them wear like everything the same till they were like 12 years old, and they hated it. So they worked together in this business, and whoever picked them up to work, right? Whoever was driving to work. When they picked somebody up, if they had the same color shirt or something that looked like it, that person had to go back in and change. They never would wear anything to that. It was the funniest thing. Like they swore like if one of them had a blue tie, somebody switches. It was like, and I was like, wow. And they're like, you don't understand. We were up until 12 years old. We wore the same clothes. People didn't know if they didn't know you. They didn't know who you were. People were calling you by the wrong name, and it was like that. I could imagine having a twin. I don't think my parents would have.
Yeah, one
of us wouldn't have made it.
They never made us after like second or third grade. They didn't dress us alike or anything that I remember.
So was the fighting, was that because you guys were so alike, or what was?
No, we were totally opposite. That's why we fought. If he's honest, he'll tell you. Like in high school, I was, honor roll, played 3 sports, didn't drink. He was in the principal's office every day. Drank at the drive-in probably most of the weekends his junior and senior year. So we didn't hang out with the same crowd. So I think I was 13 out of 123, and he's like 113 out of 123. But
he just threw it right back at you, dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can understand that. I mean, it would be interesting. Were you like disappointed in him, or what was what was that thought process be so different? What did you guys fight about? Just everything in general, or did you want to be more like you, or what?
No, we just look at each other cross-eyed, and it was a reason to fight. I mean, we just obviously probably even didn't need a reason to fight. That's why I'd never be afraid to get in a fight with anyone, because the fights we got into were, we'd fight till we were wore out, take a nap, and get back up in the summer and start beating the crap out of each other again. I mean, it was pretty brutal.
And see, I can't understand that. I don't have a twin, but I don't have a brother. So I have 3 boys. And that's the one thing that when I hear stories like you talk about your like twin brothers or people that grew up in like a lot of boys and fighting, like that just blows my mind. Like my boys got into a fight one time, and I thought it was like the end of the world. Like I know they fight now, they fight verbally, but that I know of, no one's gotten into a fist fight that I'm aware of. Because I told them, if anybody knocks out any teeth, I'm not paying for it. So hopefully that's probably not the exact reason why it's been deterred. But it's just a different. I don't know. When I hear that, I always like. There's a part of me that's I don't get it. Like but I also have a sibling who's 8 years younger, so I always felt more obligated to take care of her, to nurture her, rather than to be like we fight more now probably than we did when we were. It's the exact opposite. Like I loved her to death. I mean, she didn't like me, but now we bicker. We don't bicker. That's not true, but it's just more of like, I don't know. It's just when I hear that with because people are always telling me that, like, my boys, did your boys like kick the shit out of each other? I was like, no. Like, when did that become okay?
Well, since I'm the older brother, I was just trying to prepare him for life. Since he couldn't take care of himself, I was trying to, make him man up.
He was a slacker.
Yeah. I mean,
that's true. I mean,
he would dress up in my older sister's skirts and stuff. So,
he's dropping them on you bad. McLean must be watching his son right now because he's been awfully quiet.
Grant's keeping him busy.
That's true. He wanted to bring him to the podcast. I was like, Grant is awesome. He's running around. He makes all kinds of noise. I'm like, that sounds perfect, Dave, to come and sit in the background of a podcast. That was going to work really great for us, but we'll get him in soon. I haven't seen Grant yet.
I haven't either.
He's over a year now. I haven't seen him. It's kind of crazy. Thanks, Dave. And he's got to be taller than Dave by now, already by a year, right? I mean, that's the one thing I want to know. How many more inches before he's taller than you, Dave?
Well, when Melissa's driving, it's a toss-up who gets the booster seat.
That's true. Probably put some. Yeah, that's true. I still haven't figured out how he actually touches the ground when he's on a motorcycle. Have you seen it? He's a big motorcycle guy. So this is what you get, Dave, when you harass people the night before their appearance on the podcast. So I got out of his back. So we'll find out. Hopefully, Melissa will send us a picture. Both their child seats. I feel like David's got to be in like the booster, not the big, the full child seat.
So speaking of booster seats, when my brother taught at the University of Illinois in their fire science program, and he was so young they called him Pup, and they made him a booster seat, and they would sit there for him to sit on in the meetings.
I feel like we should have your twin brother on here. Like,
well, he said we could have done for a 2-for-1.
Is he? So he's local still.
Yeah, he's in Pataskala.
We're gonna have to have him on. We're gonna have to have the younger brother.
So Dave, when you get that ankle bracelet, home arrest bracelet off, you can come out of the house.
Wow, this is the most zing we've ever had towards a family member. I like it. It's good though. So you talked about real quick. You got big into sales. So you've been in sales now for how many years?
I started with my dad's company when I was 18, and last thing I wanted to do was be a salesman. And then in '92, when I graduated, the economy was terrible, and one of the manufacturers reps that called on my dad's company called on the company I started with, Cottingham, and so he got me an interview.
That must be Grant. He's here. Grant Dave just made it in there.
He got me an interview. I got the job, and so ever since I was 18, I've been selling something here or there.
So the time in the military, did you look back on it? You started sales young. Did anything, your military experience, law school, any of that play into what's made you successful as a salesperson, or no?
I think just being competitive, and probably the best thing that ever happened was my dad made me 100% commission, just like everybody else in his company. So if you wanted to eat, you had to go make a sale, or the old adage, kill it and bring it home. So
right. Yeah, so that's a hard thing, is the sales. A lot of people aren't used to the whole. That was my thing when I got out of the Army. Like, there's a lot of sales jobs out there, but they want to, at the time, we're like, okay, here you go. We're gonna 90% of your income comes from your commissions, and that was kind of a weird thing. And for a long time, I said, like, I don't know if I want to do that. You know what I mean? And then finally something goes off, and you're like, God, I can do this. I like to talk to people. I like to, I don't know. I think the military kind of helped, like the banter, like sales. You got to be tough on the outside on sales, right? You got to be used to told no.
Yeah, I love it. My brother, I don't think he cares for it that much. He's had some sales positions, and I don't think it was, I don't think he enjoyed it as much as I do. But I don't know. It's a game to me. I always tell, like, when I was mentoring some of the younger salespeople, I'd be like, the more no's you get, the closer you are to getting a yes. And I'd tell Dave that when he was trying to hit on women, hey, the more no's you get, someone's eventually going to say yes.
And look what happened.
Yeah.
No, but it is true. I think you said before, you bring. I love the brother thing. It's funny that you guys keep going back and forth, and I'm kind of regretting that he's not here. But that is the hardest part, I think, to some people, is that no. Is a lot of people aren't used to being told no, and sales. That's hard to hear somebody tell you no. And like, my most satisfying thing is when somebody's told you no and they finally say yes, because you obviously know you won that. You won it in the end, right, man? And I thought that was always fun to some of my favorite in my old job that was, big sales job. Like when somebody told you no and then finally said, yeah, I'll do this. You were like, you feel vindicated. All the no's feel good. But like, I know people like my wife, for example, if somebody told her no, she's never going to call you. She's never going to come back. Like it's a weird, it takes a different person. And I've always talked about this in the military is I feel like the military, we're always told that the only thing that you're going to be good at when you get out is to be a leader, right? Because that's what we're told. Like that's what your reward is. You move up in rank by becoming. You're supposed to become. Because I talked to Jason. It's supposed to be becoming a better leader.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that when you get out, you're expected to go into management and leadership. And at the time, I was like, shit. Like I like that, but I don't like having to worry about other people anymore. I kind of like worrying about myself.
Right.
And, I like making my own work day. But in sales, I feel like they do teach you to sell. They teach you, you get told no a lot in the military, right?
Yeah.
So, and, you may have an idea that nobody wants to hear for a while, but eventually they are like, okay, that makes sense. So I just thought, I wanted to ask that question because I felt like more people that are in the military, definitely if you're getting out or if you're doing something, sales is, we're that's in our wheelhouse, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, if in the military you have presented a challenge or a mission or a task, and you got to figure a way around the obstacle or get to the finish line. And sales is the same way. I always approached it, and probably a lot of my sales leadership may not appreciate the way I approach it, but I always tell people, when's the last time you were sold a car? And most people cringe because no one wants to be sold a car. It's like it's like going to get your tooth yanked without Novocaine. And then
he's just mad because the sales guy got him before he came here. He got out sales by a car salesman. So we've all been there. It's okay.
And then if you ask them, when's the last time you bought a car? It's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach it, is like, give them the information, find their pain or what value they're looking for. And if I can provide it, fine. If not, I'm on to the next thing or the next opportunity. So
I don't know if this is your brother, but I think he said that the military saved me from jail.
That's probably him.
But that's, and that's not a bad thing. You're making a lot of jokes, but that's an important thing. There's the military will force you to grow up or it'll eat you up and spit you out. So it is funny to hear stories of people that, they weren't, top of the class, they weren't doing stuff, but they're super successful people. They get in the military, they find a different purpose. They find, their yin to their yang, and all of a sudden they're successful with it. So your brother, how many years did he stay in?
I think he was 11 or 12. He moved to Illinois, and then he was in the Illinois Guard infantry unit in the Guard over there for a while, 3 or 4 years, I think, maybe. So
nice. So he's got you beat on that though. He outdid you on that. So
he did.
That's another. We just got to keep giving him positive vibes over there. He said I think he said he was jealous because I pulled all the ladies. But that may be Dave. I don't know, but most likely it's not.
No, it's
that's why I like when you can't see who the comments are. One of the funny things, I don't know if anybody knows this. We've talked about it before, but the platform we use, you can't see everyone's name unless you click on that message on the bottom and let us see that. So it is fun sometimes to not know who people are, but it would be better sometimes to not be sure who the quotes were. So sometimes when I'm laying after the podcast getting ready to go to bed, I'm like, "Ooh, that was not who I thought it was." But if you could, for admin reasons, if on the bottom of the invite, I'm getting a commercial break here, just agree to those terms and your name will come up there. We'll know it's you. We'll know who we're harassing and who's harassing us. But the anonymous harassment is good too sometimes.
Yeah, I know which ones are my brothers. I can telegraph.
He's like, I fucking know.
Yeah,
I know it's him. I know. Because I'm just kind of figuring out what David has made his way in there.
Dave, don't leave your toothbrush laying around. That's all I'm saying.
Which is funny. He's talking about Dave. We're talking about somebody. We're going to change this to a different part of things. So I met Otto in the whiskey community, right? 3 years ago, we went on a barrel pick together, and it's funny. I think we've seen each other a couple times in passing, maybe, right? But nothing there. But
when I come to pick up barrels,
he used to pick up bottles off my porch. That's what we'll call it. I see him on the camera, whatever. But no, but when we go on barrel picks, we usually hang out for a couple days together and get to know each other. But what was funny with David, one of our mutual friends that we're giving a hard time about, I knew he grew up in the area you did, and I thought you guys had this friendship that went back many years. And then today, when I talked to you, you guys' friendship only started after that
at that barrel pick, yeah.
And you guys were sitting there talking, drinking. You found out that you grew up in the same area.
Yeah, went to the same high school, just probably 5 years apart from each other.
Right. And you guys communicate pretty regularly now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. He lives about 5 minutes from me over in Black Lake. So
okay. But he obviously, you guys aren't close enough for him to bring to see the baby. I feel the same way. I haven't seen
that's on me. I just haven't been over there.
I know.
So.
But it's on me too, Dave. Sorry, geez. Now I gotta follow your suit. Yeah. We're sorry. Okay. We're sorry we didn't let you bring Grant to the podcast. Not really, but that's all right. So that's what's cool about the whiskey community. Like, you guys are going back and forth the same way as your brother was last night. And I thought there was like this like deep rooted connection. So that's the cool thing about whiskey. And it's one of the reasons why whiskey's kind of in the background here, is it does bring people together. There's a lot of people that would have never met and connected with if it wasn't for whiskey. So we're sorry, David, for not coming out there. We'll come there soon. Just make sure, like you said, David, have the good bourbon for us. I know you have it. You just have to take it out of that one. I actually know what cabinet you have in, so we'll pull it out there when we get there. It'll be good. So
yeah, we have a choice of Wellers, or Wellers.
That is true. Like, he loves the Weller 107. That is true. I think maybe he's diversified a little. We haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
We haven't been over in a while. But most likely it will be Weller 107 antique. But are we ready for the second whiskey now? Are we ready to up the proof? How you doing up there? You're ready? You're ready? So I'm super excited about this one. I've been waiting a little bit to do this. So if my numbers are correct, everyone has their bottle except for 2 people. The 2 people who don't, that's your fault, not mine. I've been trying to get it to you. One of them is Matt Dre's back, so he'll probably get it in a couple years from now. He's down there south from here as a guest a couple times. But so the bottle we're going to feature is obviously our first barrel pick, Pours with Patriots. You guys, some people watched it, we did this pick a few months ago. So this is our first barrel pick. And before we get into this one, we actually are going to be heading back down to Knob Creek next month for the second one. We did get a super short barrel. We apologize for that. We kind of put some stuff out in the group talking about it, but this was definitely a very low yield barrel. We don't know what happened, but all the people that missed out, sorry. If you got one, share with the people who didn't, but we'll have another barrel here coming soon. So obviously we're talking about Knob Creek bourbon. So we talked about the distillery in the past. This distillery, like everybody should know, is actually distilled at Jim Beam, which is in Claremont, Kentucky. You know, Jim Beam arguably produces some of the best whiskey that's out on the market. You've got obviously Knob Creek. You've got a ton of other products, Booker's. You can name them all. And then since 1775, they've now have 8, because I don't know if Freddie is actually considered the 8th distiller. I didn't do my research, but there's at least 8 Beam members that have been part of the family. And it's pretty cool. The brand became Jim Beam back in 1943 when it was named after James B. Beam, who took over the business after Prohibition to rebuild it. In 2007, that's when I would say the current master distiller took over, Fred No, and I don't know exactly when his son Freddie came on to help out, but Jim Beam, like many other distilleries, got bought out by another company. They were bought out in 2014 by Suntory Holdings. In 1992 is when the first Knob Creek bourbon came out that we know. That was done by Booker No himself, and if we talked about in the past, the same thing with Booker's. And then the program in 2010 is when they started. It's crazy. 12 years ago that they started with the single barrel program. That's what they are. That program came about at the original time for retails, but now it's expanded to groups like us, bourbon groups, restaurants, clubs, all that kind of stuff to do a selection. So I want to thank the folks at Beam Suntory for the opportunity to pick this. So I thought we'd share it, but Pours with Patriots, like all Knob Creek bourbon, 120 proof. This one is actually, we picked one of the admin team members was way off. His palate's awful. So he knows who he is, Andrew. In case you're wondering, don't ever listen to what Andrew tells you. He was outvoted significantly. But this one ended up coming in at 9 years and 9 months. The mash bill, like all Knob Creek bourbons, is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. And as we do this, I'll pour this for you first. I want to thank Jim Beam for the opportunity. Also, to thank a good friend of mine who, John, who's done these tags for us. If you got one of the bottles, the tag he did is pretty dynamic. And thanks, John, for doing that. It's glad that I can convey my creativity and ideas to you, and that you will come up with them. That's a complete joke. I just tell him what I want, and all of a sudden, I don't even tell him what I want, and he comes up with amazing shit. So, Purple Sharks is his company. He definitely deserves a shout out from this. If you need some kind of product like this, or you think you have a product, talk to John, because he is a man. He's like MacGyver of shit. Like, he's not fixing like cars, but he does some stuff that's unbelievable. So, John, thank you. Purple Shark, we'll put a shout out to you later on, but I hope you enjoy it. I'm pretty proud of this barrel. I'm going to take a pour and then pass around to the guys. They shouldn't get any because all of them got a bottle anyways, but did you get one? I don't think they got one. Get this Ed first. So let's go back to military days. We're going to reminisce. Like, you got to go back. I know it's harder for you because you're older. So if you go back to the military times, what would you say was your biggest challenge? You said earlier, like, I don't think you were joking around, but that was boring. But what was the most challenging thing for you in your time in the military?
Well, boot camp, the most challenging thing was, this sounds terrible, but taking it serious, because my hazing at Capitol and my fraternity was a lot worse than boot camp. So I got smoked and got in trouble a lot for laughing, because I knew they couldn't hit you. And I was 21 years old. Most everyone else was, 18 years old, fresh out of high school. So I got in more trouble for, smirking or laughing. And then my cousin was on post. He was a captain in the engineer brigade. So I'd go over to his house on the weekends, and I got busted for being in the permanent party PX when I was not supposed to be. And I actually ran into my drill sergeant, and I told my cousin, I was like, I'm dead. He's going to kill me. He goes, he's not going to say anything to you. I was like, yeah, I'm dead Monday, because he told me Sunday I'm going to smoke you. And he goes, he won't say anything. I was like, why not? And he said, his wife's my administrative sergeant. So I got lucky. He never said anything. But
I don't know who's more of a troublemaker, you and your brother. I think you're kind of shielding us out. I can't imagine. Yeah. I feel like you just got away. You're a little bit slicker. You just didn't get caught.
Yeah, that could be true. I didn't get caught very often, but in high school, I didn't. He was the hellraiser, not me.
So back to like when it happened. So you're in AIT. You said you found out Desert Storm's over. You're not going to overseas. Like, go back to that time. Were you like, oh shit, I made a big mistake at that point? What was your thoughts at that time? Because you said you didn't want to be in the military. You only went in because you wanted to go to war. And then all of a sudden the war is over. I feel like there's got to be a part of you like, fuck, I really made a bad decision here.
No, I missed kind of not being on a team after I quit football. So the guys in my unit in boot camp and AIT I considered part of my team. So the camaraderie there, I mean, quite a few of them were inner city from LA, Chicago, that basically the judge said, go to the military, or you're going to jail. And, you could see those guys really turn the corner, and they turned out to be really good kids. So that kind of got me reinvigorated for, being on a team. And so that's what I really liked about the military until, then you get back to your unit, and then over, 5 or 6 years, it kind of wears off.
Yeah, it gets mundane. I mean, yeah. I can see that. Yeah. But yeah, the teamwork, I think if you've played, I agree 100%. Like those times, like even if you look at sports, you run a team, but there was like 2 or 3 kids that you didn't really like anyways, but you're still a team. And like, you would want to beat the shit out of them when they were. Yeah. But if you were somewhere else and they were making fun of your teammate, all of a sudden you guys were like best friends. That's kind of how the military is. There's so many guys and gals that you get to know. So, I can see that, I mean? Like, as a team, if you've ever been in a team sport, it is, I think the Army is the ultimate team sport, right? Like, you really are counting on people like you've never counted on before. And what's interesting is who you draw yourself to, I mean, you look at people that some of my closest friends are the exact opposite of who I am. And I mean, I can't relate to them on a lot of aspects, but I can relate to them with their desire to serve, and then that bond to take care of each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, anybody that had, those in boot camp or whatever. I mean, some of those guys, if they called me today, it's been 30 years or whatever. If I could help them, I would. I mean, I found my battle buddy after 25 years of never talking to him. I found him on Facebook. And now once a year when I'm at my national sales meeting in Orlando, I go spend the weekend with him and his wife and their kids. And we go to Disney or Universal. We had a West Point cadet that was attached to our unit as part of their West Point summer camp.
I think it's a CTLT. I don't know if it's
I found him after 20 years. So he's down in Knoxville. I keep in touch with him on Facebook. So, even though we were together for a short time, I remember most of those guys. And, some of the guys that were in gangs went home and got shot and killed in the gang violence. And, some I talked to here and there, maybe once every couple of years. And so, yeah, if any of them, unless they turned out to be real dirt bags and I knew about it, I would help them.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, every profession, because ultimately, again, the military is a profession and a team. There is always good teammates and bad teammates, and good people and bad people. And it's funny that you say that, because it kind of relates to me. As I went to military college, Norwich University, and so you spend that small part of your life. When you look at it, it's a small part of your life compared to all the other things. But those guys all still, they mean the world to me. It's like you said before. There's some mean more than others. Mm-hmm. Which is fine. Everybody knows that, but still ultimately, they're my brothers and sisters, and we went through something together, and you have that bond. I think that's one of the things we were actually talking about before the podcast started. One of the driving forces for me starting this was to break through the veteran suicide thing. We talked about that before, and I think when you were asking a question about why is it different, why is it different between the newer generation, what's going on now in 2002 compared to like your grandfather, compared to our parents, in Vietnam. And I think, I don't know. I mean, I think the teamwork, the team concept is the key. I mean, I think we're all the team, but I think very quickly, a lot of us are we're still John. I still miss the time at school it shaped who I was. It shaped me in the positive way of who I am, and also the negative way. But those guys are, I'm not going to lie if I tell you, I don't sometimes sit around, get ready to go to bed and wish I was, 20 years old, and I was with those guys doing stupid shit, or right. I was 25 with doing the most miserable shit. So I wonder if that, that's one of the things to talk about. I think the team is, you got to find another way to do that. And unfortunately, for how different people look at it, my connection became, bourbon, and bourbon, I've done things. I've, done, triathlons. I've done all this kind of stuff. Yes, I do need to be running again and biking. Yes. Thanks everybody. But the bourbon community is what draws me together. It's people that you're together. You have friendships, you have common things, you help each other. And I think that's what, if you're a veteran out there, or a veteran, like push them towards something they didn't think they would like. Honestly, that's the, that's the key. But it is good. It made me feel good to hear you say that. That was the one thing you got out of it was the teamwork. It was something we always. I mean, I still miss those guys. I still miss those experiences as much as like at the time I was like, this fucking sucks. I never want to do this again. What the fuck is wrong with me? But like, I'll lay in bed and be like, or somebody be like, it's raining. I'll be like, boys, you don't know fucking rain. Have you been outside when it's raining for 48 hours and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, wow, listen to me. I sound like my dad now. I mean, it's like, but it makes sense. I mean, so it's good that there's no regret. I think that's,
no, I wish I could find some of the old drill sergeants. That'd be fun to go have a couple beers with them.
They probably, but I was wondering if you did that job, like, do you remember there's no way they can remember everyone, right?
I wouldn't think so.
But they have to remember some, because if you've been in that experience, no matter what, you do remember some.
Yeah, but maybe like one or two.
Your drill sergeant's got to remember you, because obviously got in a lot of trouble. He ran into you at the PX. You were probably, God only knows what you're doing. And then his wife probably got told.
I think I had.
You might not want to find him. Do you remember his name?
Yeah, Sergeant Finch. I know exactly who he is.
Hey, if you're out there, you find him. His name is Otto Fulmer. He's on Facebook. You can find him.
Funny
Finch.
I rounded the corner. I had a bag of chips under one arm and a 12-pack of beer under the other, and I remember it distinctly.
And somehow you survived. Look at that. Thanks to your cousin, right?
Yeah.
And Jason, you always say captains are bad people. See that? They took care of young troublemaker over here. I don't think I've ever heard that story where like you're hanging out but now it's even crazier because you look now, there's like kids have cell phones, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, I'd go over there.
They'd
pick me up after I got my pass, and I would babysit their kids, and they'd go have date night and stuff. So he was taking me to the PX to load up on snacks and beer before they went out. So
good old Fort Leonard Wood, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
Fort
the place to go to.
Woods.
So that's definitely, if you're looking at MOS 88 Mike, Fort Leonard Wood, you want to do that? I don't know if they're still doing that today.
I don't know. That and combat engineer.
Yeah, they're more engineer. So I didn't realize the transportation folks went out there.
Yeah, they closed down Fort Dix, and then it was moved down there. I think they did it there and Fort Dix, and they closed Fort Dix, and I had to stay at Leonard Wood the whole time. It was terrible. It's a armpit of a place.
There's worse places. Ask Andrew. If you've never been to Fort Hood, I still tell you Fort Hood, Fort Polk, and maybe Fort Irwin. I think they're worse.
Yeah,
Fort Irwin.
My brother went to Fort Polk, and the medic would have to give him Benadryl because it was so hot and nasty.
Fort Polk,
fall asleep.
But Irwin's worse. I mean, that's the thing we ever talked about. Like we always like, where's your the Space Force guy? That's your cousin?
Yeah, somewhere in Colorado.
I mean, anywhere in Colorado is probably better than Fort Dix, New Jersey, Fort Polk. But yeah, the Army, that's one thing we always try to act up, but the Army has shitty places.
Yeah, Innocent Army depots, another hole.
And I'm just glad we're able to talk right now. We say we don't get political, but if you haven't noticed, a lot of military bases are changing here shortly, very soon. So some names that, like Fort Bragg, I think is becoming Fort Liberty. There's a bunch of changes that are happening here. So, us old timers are having an even harder time. Like I don't think I'm ever going to call Fort Bragg Fort Liberty, but it is what it is. But don't go to Fort Irwin. Bad.
Where? I don't even know where that is.
It's like in the middle of the Mojave Desert. It's usually where the National Training Center is at, and it's just. I mean, it's a great assignment for like if you're doing your job, like you're the Op 4 normally out there, and you like it's very successful. You're doing some really cool shit, but the place itself is. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we all can't go to Schofield Barracks, right?
I know. My father-in-law actually went to Hawaii in the Vietnam era. We have a hard time about that. I never went to Hawaii. Is sweet though. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. I actually went to Fort Hood. That was my one of my. I think that was my top assignment after that. So I shouldn't be talking shit about Fort because I actually picked it. So bad decision. But Fort Hood used to be better than it is now. Like I heard it's gotten. Actually, it wasn't that good back then either. But it was close to Austin. That was a good part, right? I mean, at the time I was excited. You had no state tax in Texas, like that's what, and I was a New York resident, so I could claim to be a New York resident. I'd have to pay state tax. So I was like, shit, that's more money, right? So it was like all these benefits, and then I didn't realize how hot it was going to be, right? And then my mom one time was like, it's a different kind of hot, and coming from my mother who had never been to Texas,
it's a dry heat, right?
Yeah, it's a dry heat, like it's fucking hot, is what it is. But what's funny about Texas, I lived there the most years of my life. So Texas is a great place. Fort Hood, not so good. So
yeah, when I went to Vegas for the first time with my wife, she goes, "It's a dry heat," and I was like, "Anytime it's over 100, I don't give a crap. It's hot."
I never heard the concept of dry heat. Yeah. Like I didn't buy that either. It's fucking hot. Like I remember one story. My old job, we were working at Fort Hood. I think it was probably like 2012. So I hadn't been back there since like 99. And so we were working with a unit on a project we're doing, and we're sitting in the motor pool. It's the middle of August. It's literally like 105 degrees. And my German colleague looks at this like warrant officer and is like, when is it going to cool off? And he's like, excuse me. He's like, when is it going to cool off? And this warrant officer looks at his watch and he's like, probably like October, November, it'll cool off. And he goes, no, I mean today. And he goes, it's not going to cool off today. It's going to be this hot tonight and tomorrow. And Stefan was like, I don't think he understands my question. Like, no, you're not understanding his answer. Like, it literally is hot all the fucking time in Texas. I mean, it's in dry heat. Anybody that says that shit has never lived in any of those places, right?
Yeah, Fort Leonard Wood was always in the summer hot,
but not dry heat.
No.
Texas or
just humidity, nasty.
Or Fort anywhere down south. I mean, sorry, everybody. Like, the only saving grace that I love about Texas, everything is air conditioned. Like, every place is air conditioned. Like, coming up to Ohio in 2000, it's 2002, 22, and like people still don't have air conditioning. I'm like, it's 2022. Buy a window unit.
Yeah,
they got them on wheels now. You can connect them. Like, it's awful. I mean, but Texas, everything's air conditioned. Like, convenience store, food truck, everyone's got air conditioning. If not, you're going to die, right? You know what I mean? So sales, you said that the military didn't help you at all for sales. I'm kidding. Biggest thing that you love about sales. What do you love about it?
So I'll give you my first business I ever sold. So
I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, we were in middle school. Well, we didn't have. It would be the equivalent of middle school. Back in the country in Eastern Ohio, you had elementary from kindergarten till 8th grade, and then you had 9th through 12 at the high school. So me and my brother had a paper route, and I was playing sports, and I wasn't carrying my weight in the paper route, and he went griping to my dad, and my dad's like, well, you have to buy it off of him. So I'm like, yeah, buy it off me. And so I sold half the paper route, and this was probably in October, and I made him give me half the Christmas tips. So it was the first business deal I ever did.
Was on your brother?
Yeah, ripping my brother off.
This family, I got to get together with you guys. Do you guys get together on Thanksgiving or Christmas? I got to come down there.
Yeah, we come out to my farm.
We might bring the camera out. We might see this interaction. We'll
come out to the farm in Newark and sit around the bonfire and drink bourbon. And
so you talked about the farm. Now you brought up the farm. That was one of the questions I had later on. So you live on a farm now?
No.
I thought you said you're on the farm. No.
I have a farm.
Okay, you don't live on the
farm.
No,
I live in Blacklick, and I have a farm in Newark by Flint Ridge Memorial.
Okay.
It's like 45 acres, and we go out and hunt, and, well, we act like we're
So it's
hunting.
not a working farm?
We tried to grow apple trees, and I have beehives, but it hasn't been a successful run so far.
It's just mainly hunting land and partying.
Yeah, it's like my wife says, how much work did you get done on the farm? And we're like, oh, we got tons of work done, which equates to sitting in a barn around the wood burner, drinking beer and bourbon and telling lies.
Well, it's my kind of farm because I had the question, like, I'll read the question. I think I had it written down because you told me the farm. I was like, you currently live on a farm. Was that passed down or did you purchase something? And like, there's something I didn't know about you, but now I know. Now it's making sense after an hour or so in our other conversations. This is like your getaway farm.
Yeah, it is. So I told my wife I wanted to buy a farm. So I wanted to be more in control of some of my 401k. So I wanted to buy a farm because, they're not making any more land. So I thought it would be a good investment. And so I told her, I said, I'm going to an auction to buy a farm. And she thought I was kidding. And I came home owning a farm. So she wasn't quite sure what to think about that.
I don't feel as bad about buying an AR-15.
Yeah.
Tell my wife, but I'm like, I only came up with an AR-15. You came up with a farm. Yeah, we bought a farm. It's something on.
So it has a little 30 by 50 pole barn and a little 1-bedroom cabin. And she and my daughters basically refused to come out there till it's remodeled. So I bought it in 2015 and it's still not completely remodeled.
He's working hard.
Yeah. So
everybody wants to help him remodel this. So you can DM him. I'm sure there's good deer hunting there, probably, right?
Yeah, we got quite a few deer. It butts up to like 250 acres of Flint Ridge Memorial that no one's allowed to hunt on. So
cool. That's a good little getaway.
Yeah, I mean, I hunt for my wife and daughter don't eat venison, so I don't shoot does because no one's going to eat it. But I hunt in antlers, and Dave would have had quite a few if he could shoot. He keeps missing.
Yeah, but Dave is supposed to be the greatest shot I heard that. No?
Yeah, he keeps missing.
Wow, Dave.
He's good for 2 misses before he hits one, and then if he hits it, then we got to track it forever because he hits it in the wrong spot. But
wow, the truth comes out about all your friends.
We have eternal hope for him.
Someday, Dave. Someday. or maybe his son will be a better shot. Hopefully, but Dave's a big gun guy. We were just talking to him today about some stuff. Like he loves his stuff. He loves his motorcycles. But
I was talking about my brother Dave.
your brother
not
Dave,
McLean.
not McLean. I said we got both of them. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's weird. Like you have the double Daves. It's like
double Dave
that you can harass. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, I got one nut for both of them to bust because they're always picking on me.
They are actually, because they did jump on you pretty quick last night. I felt bad. I felt like I was going to defend you, but then I'm like, let's see how this goes. And I'm glad I let it go because now we can throw it back at them. That's good stuff. So you're definitely better. You said you're better looking, smarter, more driven, more of a ladies' man, and a better shot than your brother Dave, right? Is what you're saying.
Exactly. I couldn't have summed it up better.
I think I had that. Did I have that written down? I mean, I'm going to put that down for you. No, but we got to have your brother on. It would be a good. So, do you have any plans of doing anything to the farm, or is it kind of your man getaway?
Kind of the man getaway. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd get some alpaca or some goats or something, but I'm not out there every single day, so I can't have anything out there that would require taking care of it on a daily basis. So, but I used to lease it out to a farmer, and then he for like 3 years he didn't plan it, and then I lost my CAUV designation, and so
You're
Dave.
You're sorry, everybody there. I because everybody can see this, I think, but it just makes me laugh. I love I'm actually regretting because I've been contemplating having multiple people on. You know what I mean? And it's going to come soon. But this I'm kicking myself. If I had known this, that you definitely would have both been on. It would have been a lot more enjoyable. But this is actually fun going back and forth. I think that's probably making the sheep comment as well. You were talking about alpaca. He's talking about sheep, but this is too. Is it his brother?
Yeah,
it is your brother. Yeah, that's what we figured. If not, then someone was definitely out for you on the podcast. But so, how's the wife feel about knowing it's just like your getaway? She cool with it now after 7 years?
No, she still asks me when the investment side is going to kick in, and I just tell her when I sell it. That's so.
You can probably sell it now and make good money, though.
Oh yeah, it's probably doubled in value.
Yeah.
I keep hoping that fracking comes another 40 miles east of Zanesville. So I don't know. Time will tell.
Is that the plan though? Eventually to sell it, or not move back there, build a big house, get the alpaca sheep.
When we move to South Carolina, it'll probably be our Ohio.
It'd be yours. You keep saying ours, like yours, like because you said the girls. And they never go out there.
No, but when we move to South Carolina, we come back to visit. We'll probably stay there.
In the shack, I think they're gonna be like, "No, you're putting us in the hotel." I don't think that's a good plan.
Yeah, she'll stay there.
You're gonna put in the pole barn, the one room. Yeah. I'm trying to help you here, Betty. If you move to South Carolina, do not let him bring you back to the farm. Make him put you up in a hotel, somewhere nice.
She'll add on to the cabin or something, I'm sure. So,
she already has plans?
I'm sure. She just hasn't told me about it.
So you've been married 22 years.
Yep. Coming be 23 this summer.
So 2 daughters. You call her Bella and Chloe?
Bella and Chloe.
So Bella's the one that ruined your life.
Yeah, she's the one most like me. She goes to Eastern Kentucky University, and she's in their fire science program. She wants to be an arson bomb explosion investigator.
Oh, cool.
And Chloe's a senior at Gahanna Lincoln High School, and she wants to be an orthodontist. So
you're gonna have to keep that property for a long time.
I'm paying for undergrad, and then they're on their own. I've already told them they should join the military and take advantage.
Do exactly what I did.
Yeah, take advantage of the GI Bill, but
no, I mean it's a good. But like you said, you're a perfect example. That'd be kind of a hard conversation to have though, because I'm sure they know your story, right?
No, they don't care about that.
They don't. You don't talk to them about it though. Like why?
Well, I do, but it goes in one ear out the other. They're like, I gotta go, or their nose is shoved in their iPhone. So
you can always turn off the iPhone. You're probably paying for that, right?
Yeah, we tried that whole parental control, and they're smarter than us because they figured out the workaround.
Yeah, like the parent, my wife put like a parent control on the boy's phone, and then she still thinks it's on there. It's not.
Yeah.
And they figured it out with like a week. But yeah, that always funny. Like I remember like now with the parental controls, like you always want to be like, I'm gonna take your phone away. Then you don't want to take anything away. I'm at the point of my parenting was always, I don't want to take away anything that's going to cause me any more blowback. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It goes back to narcissistic thing. But I was like, if I take away this Xbox for a whole month, I have to hang out with them for a whole month. I gotta watch. We gotta watch age appropriate stuff. They're gonna be around me all the time. I was like, Jana, a month is way too much for them. It should have been 2 months, but I can't take a month of that.
I tried to ground them and told them I was going to take their iPhone away, and they're like, "Well, how are we going to call you after practice or after this or that at high school?" And I'm like, "Use the payphone. Go use the payphone." And my wife's like, "You're an idiot." And I was like, "Why?" And she goes, "They don't have payphones anymore." I was like, "There's no payphones?" And she's like, "No." And then go borrow one of your friend's iPhones and call us to come pick you up.
So. But the phone is that is a true thing. Like every parent, like what's the age of like kids now having phones, right? Like I mean, it's like what's the new age of?
They were like, "I'm going to be the only fifth grader that doesn't have an iPhone."
Yeah, I think not having an iPhone or Droid, like this is the Droid people. If you don't have let's say smartphone, and you're a kid, I don't think you can get by in school now without it. Like my kids are always on there for Schoology and checking shit. I'm just like, can we not just send a note? Can I not write on a piece of paper? No, you have to do this, and it's crazy. So
yeah, my daughter at EKU, she goes to class, but the exams are on their computer. They got to submit them through Blackboard, and they don't even review the test afterwards. You have to make office hours to go review the test. So it's crazy.
And tuition has continued to go up. So that's another reason to join the Army or the Space Force, because I think your cousin said he's in Colorado Springs. Yeah, definitely better than Fort Leonard Wood. Colorado Springs is beautiful. But so no desire for the girls to military wise. They're bucking you. Your plan to help pay for school?
Yeah, I thought Bella was going to go to the Navy because all her friends went to the Navy or the Army, and then she changed course. And I keep threatening her if she doesn't do well, then she'll have to join someone to pay for it because I'm not going to pay for it. But
so I assume she's doing well.
Yeah, she's working through.
I'm sorry. You said she's a lot like you, so that's she should be breezing through it. It's her undergraduate. You breeze through law school.
I think she's balancing the mom and dad aren't watching what I do with trying to manage, putting forth the effort of studying and stuff. So, I mean, she's either going to figure it out or she's not.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and that's funny because I have one that just graduated, and then I have a junior in college, and then I have a senior like you in high school, and it is crazy. Like the whole. I feel like I'm more involved now with my kids than my parents ever. Like I don't remember my parents ever asking me like what my grades were. I'm like number one. I remember specifically like forging a report card. Remember back in that's what you guys miss and be able to forge. Paper, like my mom had the most beautiful forgeable signature you've ever seen. I mean, like Roberta. I mean, it was like so perfectly done. I'm like. And, that came in handy a lot of times. But what I don't recommend back in the day is when your mom picks you up because you don't have a car, and then on the sign out front of the school says, hey, report cards came out December, whatever. And your mom looks at it like, I didn't get a report card. Oh, I thought I gave it to you. And that was bad. So, so parents, make sure your signature is not legible. That's what I did. Make it scribble. Very to do. But yeah, I don't remember my parents being involved as much. And I mean, like, I don't think my parents ever asked me about grades.
Well, now you can't. I mean, my daughter in college, you can't even find out if they're going to class because the Federal Privacy Act.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I can't even. She could drop the class, get the refund check, and go to, Hawaii, and I wouldn't even know about it.
I'm pretty sure you would, though.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But
yeah, I mean, I think it is. I think there's the competitive, like the grades things is crazy with school. Like the ACT and like my youngest son is, he's trying to get into school. He's a baseball player like his brother, and he's trying to do this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I gotta step back because I'm always like, you can do better on this. And they're like, what did you get on the ACT? I was like, I didn't take the ACT. Dude. We did the ACT. We did the SAT, and they're like, what'd you get? And I'm like, then they now know they can like Google and be like. The SAT score equals this and the ACT, and I'm like, it's. I just felt like I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing with being so involved with our kids. Like I I've instilled like education's number one thing. Like my son plays football. We just went up last weekend to watch a football game. We got to see him for a whopping maybe 48 seconds before the ref made a horrible call to give the ball back. We would have seen him for a minute and 48 seconds. But my whole thing is like, how's he doing academically? You know what I mean? But I don't like. I wouldn't even ask the school though. I'd mainly ask them. Like, I didn't know these like laws and stuff. I just like put the pressure on them and then like say, give me your phone and let me see your account. But I don't know. I mean, education is a weird thing. I mean, I wasn't that great in school. Like, you know what I mean?
I tell
didn't
everyone,
apply myself.
Yeah, I tell everyone I graduated summa cum barely. So.
No, I didn't apply myself in high school. I just thought it was more like there was. I have like with my kids, it's funny. There's like the people like my oldest son is a nurse. Like he's like all my kids are super smart, right? But like my middle son doesn't have to do like I feel like he doesn't have to do anything. Like he's like a smart kid. You know what I mean? Like if he applied himself like half of what his brothers did, he could be whatever. But he's just like it's just strange. You know what I mean? But I think parenting like it's so hard now because. Even when you talk to other parents are acting like I've had people ask you like, what did your kid get on the ACT? Like, I think that's the weirdest question. Like, yeah, like I think like we're competing now. Like our kid is like our, like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like we're like, oh, you have like I have sons. Like, oh, your daughter had a 31 ACT.
Yeah, like
what's she majoring in? What's she look like? Oh, we could breed. Like they could get together. Like I don't know what we're doing here. It's like it's the craziest.
Like
thing.
a status symbol. Of
it's nuts. I mean, it's a crazy thing, and you're always like, and I find myself guilty of it too because I'm always like, I pit my boys against each other, right? Like you talk about the brother thing about school, about grades and things like that, and I'm always. I do it like subconsciously, but then when I sit back, I'm always like they're so different. All three of my boys are the same, but they're so different, and like to compare them to each other is nuts. But
yeah, my daughters are polar opposite, and it's weird. You're like, how come one came from Mars and one came from Venus or something?
Yeah,
and mom, is your typical stereotype Asian that I think she has 3 degrees. She's always top of her class, and then she wants to say, well, one daughter's not getting good grades. She should be getting good grades. And I'm like, no, Bella's Bella, Chloe's Chloe. They're not the same. And I'm like, and this pisses her off. It's like, hey, what's your GPA that's printed on your diploma? And she goes, huh? And I was like, yeah, what's your GPA on your diploma? She's like, it's not on the diploma. And I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
So mom needs to kind of chill out on the Asian genes. So.
He just called Betty out. He's calling a lot of people out today. Like, Betty, you need to chill out. The girls are the girls. You ready for another pour there? Yeah, get some wangs. Wangs always taste good. You guys see that? That was a good one. But no, it is funny. Like we have the kids of the same age. I was actually excited that I knew coming on we're the same age. It's always fun to have people that experience the same things and we're seeing the same things we're seeing in the world. And the kid thing is a hard. It is funny. Like I mean I can't imagine like 3. So you only have 2. I have 3. Like I always talk to people that have multiple kids.
Yeah, the girl
more than 3, and I don't know how they give time. And then like it's just crazy. Like my kids are so different. Like they have. My oldest son likes to say that he has the best of me and the best of my wife. So he's the best at smoothing it over. But I'm kind of like when I look at him, I'm like. Yeah, but he has the worst of me, and they're all so different. I just don't,
Well, be glad you don't have daughters because
I'm glad.
Like Bella is like she's plain Jane. Like she's not getting dolled up unless you make her. And then Chloe, she's like always got to have. She's dressed to the nines, and she had a boyfriend from Canal Winchester, so she had to have a prom dress for the Canal Winchester prom, and then a prom dress for the Gahanna prom. And I'm like, well, why can't you wear the same dress? And my wife's like, just leave the room. You don't understand. And I'm like, well, can't you just
don't talk to your brother Dave?
Yeah, can't you cut make it a shorter dress for the other prom? So it's I don't understand the female fashion dynamics.
You're outnumbered though. I like my wife is outnumbered. I like that. So the number like I couldn't have. I don't think I could have. I'm glad I had boys. I think like the funniest thing is when we had our third son, Gabe, my wife and everybody was convinced that he was going to be a girl. Right. It was going to be like, and like, right. I just knew he was going to be a boy. I was like, Jesus. Like, and then you look at the science. There's actually a science to like multiple kids. Like, it's a low that you're going to have a girl, a girl. And the funny thing is, my wife, I laugh about this because it's one of the funniest moments of my life, but it's also worse because my wife was so convinced, like, I'm finally getting my girl. This is going to be good. And I was actually still at Fort Knox at the time. She's going to kill me for telling the story. And it's this, the story I'm going to tell you is 100% true. For real. So we go to the ultrasound, and I was actually working. So it was like, go to the ultrasound, go to lunch. So we show up at the hospital, do the kind of thing. And like, I'm honestly worried about the baby being healthy. That's all you go to the ultrasound. That's the idea. Jana was not thinking that. She was like, that's the part where I'm lying. She was like, felt like in the back, but she's like, I'm going to get vindication. I got a girl's coming. And we were sitting there, and the ultrasound tech's doing her thing, and like, in the whole time I'm like, this is going to be he's going to be a boy. Like, this is going to be the worst. Please God, you've never listened to me before. Please make this a girl, but don't. You know what I mean? But I'm like, and she's like, are you guys ready to find out the sex of the baby? And Jan's like, we do. And the tech is like, I'm sorry, honey, it's a boy. And my wife, Jana, was like, I swear to God, she's going to lie about this, was just like, the whole mood changed. And the tech is like, but Mom, he's really healthy. And she's just like, can we get this cleaned up? Let's get out of here. Like, you know what I mean? And I remember leaving. We're supposed to go to lunch, and we were in the hallway at the hospital at Knox. And we're going to lunch. She's like, no, I just need to be by myself. I just need time to relax. And I remember going in opposite directions because we were parking up in places. And I look back, and she's just like, so I always tell Gabe, she was so disappointed. I can understand it. So, but I'm glad that I didn't have a girl, because you're talking about short dresses. Like, there's none of this stuff. I'd be like, boyfriends. No, I'm like, I'm glad I was blessed to have boys. But I feel bad for my wife, because maybe it'll be all granddaughters, because then I would be like, that's the perfect scenario for me. Like, granddaughters, you can spoil them, send them home to the kids, you know what I mean?
Well, other than all the drama, I mean, it's kind of like hitting the lottery for a guy, because I don't have, if they want to go shop, I'm like, nah, I'm not going shopping, or, it gives me an out to, not be involved in that drama.
So I like it because I can tell them to shut the fuck up. Like, when they're little, like, you don't feel bad. You don't feel bad. You can't tell, like, I can't tell any woman to shut the fuck up. Like, I have no problem telling at the time, a 13-year-old boy that, like, shut the fuck up. So it's a different, I think, the personalities. Like, it's funny with kids. Oh, I think you get what you're supposed to get.
Yeah,
right?
I've told him a couple times, it's lucky you're not a boy, because I'd be taking you behind the woodshed.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
Oh, he's lying.
No, I would have.
Oh, he's lying. Come on, that's a lie. You can't do that anymore. You can't be taking anybody behind the pole barn at the. They won't even. You couldn't even get them there because they don't go to the property. You can't put them behind the barn. You're the only person that goes up there.
They said, I'll call child services on you, and I'll you want me to dial the number? So.
I like the big talk, though.
No, they know who's the boss.
Yeah,
Betty,
your wife, Betty. 100%. So talk about Betty a little bit. She has 3 degrees. You're saying did you say it?
Yeah, she's got 2 undergraduate, 2 masters, and then she just graduated in May with her doctorate in design leadership development.
So how did you meet her?
She was at my first job. She came 5 years after I started working there, and she was a sales assistant. So I was fishing off the company dock. So
I have no. I've heard you've thrown some analogies that I have not heard in a long, like, eat where you shit, basically saying something, or shit where you eat.
Kill what you eat.
That was a good one. I hadn't heard that one before. So did you guys hit it off right away?
No.
Dave didn't take her on a date first?
No, she this is self-deprivation here. So when she started working there, I was in that point in my life where I didn't want the drama of girls. So I was just working my rear end off, golfing like 6 days a week. And she had graduated from Ohio State with an education degree, and she was just getting a part-time job for the summer. So she thought, and so I was walking to the copy room. The girls in the office were showing her around, and we rounded the corner at the same time and ran into each other. And the girls in the office are like, "This is Wayne. This is the one we warned you about." And I'm like, "What's that?
Stay away from him.
What's that supposed to mean?" And she's like, "They said you're the player." I'm like, "Whatever. I work and play golf. That's all the playing I do." And then she leans over and she pokes me in the belly and she giggles. And I'm like, "What?" And I said, "I don't get it." And she does it again. I was like, "What?" And she's like, giggle like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Ooh.
And I'm like, "Okay, that's pretty funny." And so I'm like, "Nice to meet you." And I go walking down the hall. And then she says, "Hey, Wayne. And I turn around and I said, "What?" And she says, "Anyone ever tell you look like a Cabbage Patch Kid?" So it was on at that point. That's
Wow.
challenge accepted, because I'd never dated anyone ethnic, and I thought she was cute, but she wasn't my type until I realized she was sassy.
Until she harassed you like your brother did.
Yeah, so that's kind of when it started. So
this cat, I'm looking at it kind of different. I got to take a look at it. The Cabbage Patch Kid.
I thought it was more like Kevin James, King of Queens, but
I think he's bigger than you. He's like the taller. Yeah. The Cabbage Patch Kid, I'm kind of seeing that now. I feel like I got to look at some old images of that. A lot of people like Cabbage Patch. Do they even know what the Cabbage Patch Kid? You guys know what the Cabbage Patch? So all the new guys like. Yeah, we don't.
So Bella's friends.
You don't know about the dolls. You don't know about people fucking trying to kill people over Cabbage Patch dolls.
So
you don't know about that.
So Bella's friends come over all the time. They're like my sons. And they're like, "Mrs. Fulmer, can Mr. Fulmer go out with us? He's got really good pickup lines." And Betty's like, "No, he doesn't." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, he does." And she's like, "No, they suck." And I was like, "Well, either my pickup lines work or you're stupid. Which one is it?" And of course, she didn't answer that question. She just walked away.
She chose you.
Yeah.
That's all you got to remember after almost 23 years. Just give in to the wife. That's the best way.
Yeah, and my brother chimed in. Since I had not dated anyone ethnic on our first date, I had 2 strikes against me, because 1, I asked her if she was Hawaiian, because I didn't know any Vietnamese women, and then 2, when she came over to the apartment with where me and my buddies lived, I thought it was a really great idea to cook her stir fry with Uncle Ben's minute rice.
Ooh.
So
it's a thought though. You tried.
Yeah,
right?
She said, "Don't you ever cook me Uncle Ben's minute rice again."
So is she a good cook though?
Yeah, she's a really good cook.
So she cooked Vietnamese food?
Yeah. So
Nice,
Vietnamese women are like Italian women. I mean, they love to cook. It's you knock on the door, they invite you in, they immediately start cooking. So yeah,
I've had the same thing. You got to throw Korean women in there too. Like if you've never met Korean women, like to cook as well. So that's a thing I learned from. I love Korean food. I love Asian food. Asian food's all.
Yeah, I've never had Korean food, but
really?
Vietnamese food, I prefer that over Chinese food any day.
I don't think I've had Vietnamese food though. I don't think I'm allowed to. Because I think my dad, like, if I was gonna, like, my dad's gonna flash back to like if I ever talk about Vietnamese food, I'm like, I still feel like that generation. It's like,
yeah, because we were
like,
born
that
in
was like great, like Vietnamese is like it was a bad
taboo,
rub.
right?
I mean, not to make a joke, like I am, but at the time it was like it's a weird thing. Like if you were, like I don't know how you feel. Like my dad back then, there wasn't a huge community at the time. Right?
No,
I mean a lot of people came after.
Yeah, like 1975.
Yeah.
So yeah, when growing up, I'm like, because 75, I guess, is kind of when it ended, and so when we were growing up, it's like, who's gonna, Vietnamese people, you always thought they were bad or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the stigma, and I would never have thought I would end up, marrying a Vietnamese woman, but
does she speak Vietnamese?
She does.
The girls?
No, they can say hi to grandma, and first Vietnamese word I learned was "I'm sorry."
Yeah, you probably use that a lot.
Yeah, I figured I'd use that one a lot.
Like every day, 2 or 3 times a day, probably.
And then I said my vows in Vietnamese, but I think I promised to take out the trash and cut the grass because I don't know what I said.
So there was no desire for
the girls
to teach the girls?
They don't. Well, Betty would love it, and the grandmother would love it, but the girls have no interest in it. But all the kids, Betty's brothers and sisters, are all fluent in Vietnamese.
Because I always thought that's crazy. You see a lot of service members that marry, like yours is kind of different, but they go to Germany, they marry a German woman, or go to Korea, they marry a Korean woman or whatever. Like I was always shocked, like that they don't. It's funny, like some of the service members were against it, like that they didn't want to carry on that. Like I remember talking to like an E7 when I was in and a lieutenant at Fort Hood, and his wife was Korean. And I was like, did the girls speak Korean? And he's like, I would never let them speak Korean. She's an American now. And I'm like, that's half her culture to be able to do that. I mean, it's good. They probably, what he probably doesn't know is they probably speak fluent Vietnamese, and he doesn't know it yet. Probably I could see that.
Well, I don't. No, the girls definitely don't. But when Betty's dad was alive, when they were building their little 5-acre compound down there, and they built a 2.5-acre lake, and I was down there every weekend stacking rocks or doing something. And after 2 years of that, they would be talking, and I'd go over to the toolbox and get a hammer and take it back to them. And then they're looking at me like, how the hell did you know we needed a hammer? So it just was like the context or syntax. I would know what they wanted. And I just played it off like I knew what they were talking about. So then they thought they couldn't talk about me because I knew what they were saying.
If you're working on something, you got a 1 in 20 chance to grab the right tool.
Yeah. But no,
you always need a hammer, right? But so did your father-in-law, did he ever talk about serving in the South Vietnamese military, or is it kind of nothing you talked about like your grandfather? Did he ever?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it, but he was, he wasn't in a combat role, so he was more in Saigon, the capital. So he didn't, up until the embassy fell, he didn't really, not like he saw a lot of.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the action. I'm just talking about that whole like, because I got to feel like if you at that time, if you move back in '75, like if I can imagine your father-in-law running into my dad, right, and him talking about I was in the South, Korean Army as a JAG officer. My dad, I can't even imagine what my dad would be like, because they have that. At the time, it wasn't just a normal thing, but I mean, it's still a service to your country. I mean, he was obviously doing important things and serving his country at the time. Is that like? I mean, like I'm more of like what was like the vibe, and like I don't know.
So it's more
where I'm going with that question.
From my recollection, that it was more of. If he would have stayed, he'd probably been executed, is what I've been told. And so it's more, I mean, they lived the American dream more than I did, because they left everything over there, came here, built from nothing, because they literally were told, you have so many hours to get your family. And he was able to bring his mother and his sister. So just like immediate family. And then they came over on a Navy ship, and were sponsored by the Catholic Church, and they lived in an apartment with cousins and aunts and uncles, and there were like 15 people in an apartment, and literally started with nothing. And then when the old adage about having $100,000 in the mattress, that's kind of probably how they were. They didn't trust the banking system, so they didn't go on vacation, raise their own vegetables and stuff. So I mean, I could honestly say she probably lived the American dream more than I have. I was fortunate, and
it's funny to hear that story, because we had Matt Dre's back on a couple episodes ago, and he talked about his interpreter that was in Afghanistan, and that same. It's kind of the same thing. Like your father-in-law was there when it all went sour, and there was a huge difference of how many people they did bring back. And like put into that pipeline where it was the right, in my mind, the right way to do it. I mean, like you're exactly right. Like your father-in-law probably would have been killed, and his family would have been killed, but our government made a decision to help that out. And like I think that's one of the things that a year ago, how things went in Afghanistan. I still it's crazy to hear those stories that. Like there's so many people that should be able to have the opportunity to live the American dream. They've helped us, and they've done that, and that is crazy to hear that. But I mean, American dream. What is the American dream? That's the whole thing you talk about. Like, I feel like you lived the American dream too. I mean, like, I mean, you got away from an abusive brother, right? Okay. I don't know if we should wake Dave back up. I feel like he's gotten quiet a little bit, so I shouldn't have said that. But no, I mean,
probably had to go change his adult diaper.
The American dream is working hard. Like, what is the American dream? That's a good question. That's a good thing. What's your definition of American dream? Because I think everybody's, if you work hard.
So my definition of the American dream is, we all have the same rights. So, I have friends that gripe about, well, you and Betty have this or you have that, and I'm like, because I don't pull any punches. I'm like, look, this is America. The American dream is you have the right to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever, just like me, work as many hours as I do, and get ahead. Don't sit there and don't work as hard as I do and then complain that you don't have what I do.
Right.
So to me, the American dream is you have the ability to be successful if you put in the work.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this is actually going down a road that people may take this wrong way, but so we won't go too deep into this about the American dream and all these kinds of things and opportunities that people get. Like my definition of the American dream is just that, you know, if you, I don't know, I feel like I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college, first person to get a master's degree. Like if I look where my parents came from, growing up and where I'm at now, that's, you know, that came, honestly, it came from hard work. That's the only thing I could tell everybody was like, you know, all these jokes aside about like, you know, always be closing or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't fucking like, I've never stopped. I don't know how to turn it off. Like you're always working. Like, I mean, working at 13 years old in a paper route, you know, like, you know, these jobs you're getting like that's what I still feel like this country has a place that if you bust your ass, like obviously good things don't happen to everybody, but you have an opportunity to do well. I mean, that's the thing is that's my thing. I struggle the most with my kids is like, my kids will be like, oh, you don't understand. I play baseball and travel baseball. I was like, motherfucker, you don't understand. Like I did those same things. And I actually didn't do it the same way because my parents were not paying $3,000 a summer for me to play fucking baseball. Like I was living a paper route at 5:00 in the morning. So like, there's a different thing about the American dream. I think, and that gets, I don't want to go down that road because I think some people may take it the wrong way of being political, and that's not what we're trying to do here. It's just like, but America is a place where you can, you know, you can better yourself if you bust your ass. I firmly believe that. I'll never feel differently about that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I tell my daughters, you know, if they would have said, I don't want to go to college, I would have said, well, here's what you need to think about. If you don't want to go to college, here's some of the things that might be a disadvantage, but at the end of the day, you don't have to go to college to be successful.
No.
But if you go to college and get an education, that's something no one's ever going to take away from you. They can't take it back from you. And I'll give my brother kudos as, you know, when he was a fire chief in a leadership role, he always told his firefighters, you know, I'm here to help you succeed. I want you to get an education, get more certifications. So he was always big on, you know, trying to help them get to the next level. And, you know, I think, you know, right now with the price of college and stuff, you could, if you're a young kid and you want to go, you know, get a plumbing degree or certification, electrician, welder. I mean, you could start your own welding company and be $400,000 ahead from the kid that spent 4 years in college.
100%. But I think we talked about before, like that involvement of this is turned into a good conversation. It's more about parenting now. I'm like analyzing my horrible parenting, but it is a weird thing. Like if you were to talk about, like everyone's asking like ACT scores, like if I feel like there's a stigma today. If you said like, what does your son do? And he's like, he's a journeyman plumber and he owns, you know, and then people are, oh, he's a plumber. Well, my son, and you're like, yeah, but he owns his own company. Like right. When I moved here in 2014, we had some electric work done here. And I don't know what it's called, like the apps to find all the guys make fun of me, Boomer, like whatever, like, you know,
Angie's List or
yeah, I think it was Angie's List actually. Like to find this like electrician to come in, and a kid shows up. He's like 24 years old, and whenever somebody comes here that I don't know what to do, I'm the worst customer because I want to follow them around because number one, I feel inadequate that I don't know how to do this, and electricity scares the shit out of me because if you've ever been shocked or
yeah.
So you're worried about it. But if anybody comes down here, Dave McLean can verify this. Every time he comes to help me, he has to be like, Jay, go away, I'll fix this. But so this kid, like, he comes in here and he's like crawling into the attic, you know, putting in ceiling fans, and I'm like, who do you work for? And it's like, I just started my own business. And I was like you know, like what do you mean? It's like I've been an electrician for 5 years, blah blah blah. I decided to do my company. I'm doing this kind of stuff, and he's like, I got a baby on the way, and now I'm like, Christ, now I need to pay this guy more money because he's like, you know, starting off, you want to take care of him, right. And he freaking takes it. He had so much patience, like what we're doing, like, and we're talking about going into the attic, like up at the crawl space. He's like, I've had people that I've had employees that went into the crawl space to do this. We say, hey guys, like we're gonna give me, you know, go for lunch for an hour, and they don't come back. And I was like, are you serious? He's like, dead serious. He's like, that's the worst job to go up there and do that, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, he does all the work. It's like everything's great. So like 4 years later, I think I call him to put some electric outlet in, and I call him and he's like, I'm going to send one of my guys out there. I was like, your guys, you don't come see me. He's like, Che, I have like 20 employees now. I'm doing all these commercial contracts. He's like, if you want me to come out there, it's going to be a lot of fucking money. I was like, send your newest guy. I'm not paying for that. But that's the funny thing is I think nowadays that there's a disconnect with education is important. I think critical thinking education is super important no matter what you're doing, if it's focused in the right way. But I see kids nowadays that their parents are like pushing them to like do something that they're not. Like I'm big on my kids about STEM. If you're not doing STEM, and I wasn't a STEM guy, like I would not have made it, but I had a different career path than they were to do it. But you're right. But if you tell your kid, if you say that your kid's a plumber, what do people think nowadays?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. They would be like, oh, what'd you do wrong as a parent?
Yeah, and that's great. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's definitely has to be people that, I mean, there's tons of ways to make money. Like what's the worst thing of coming out of college with debt? Which isn't bad. I mean, I think coming out of school with debt is important.
Yeah, I think
it's important for me because it made me realize I want to do. That's when I started thinking about school. I was like, if I do this, I'm gonna have how much money? Say what? Like, I mean, but it's crazy.
Yeah, I remember it was good for me because I had, I don't know, it might have been $158 a month that I had to pay on my student loan when I graduated. But I mean, it was probably the first bill I had that was my own that I knew I was responsible for, and so it helped me kind of feel like I was an adult and establish credit and everything else. But I'm guilty of, looking at someone and be like, oh, well, what's this person do? Because when I had my cabin in Gatlinburg, we were out at a restaurant, and women don't understand this, but you're in the bathroom and using the urinal, and some guy next to you is, talking to you, like, and they're like, "Why are you talking to some guy when you're using the urinal?" And
does anybody? I don't know if that's a faux pas. Like, I mean,
it's just I don't know. But this kid's like, griping about politics and lumber prices, and I was like, "What do you do?" And he goes, I own 68 cabins here in Gatlinburg," and I'm looking at this dude like, bullshit. You're lucky if you own a shoebox.
Right.
And so I go back, and this guy's telling me he knows the guy from 84 Lumber, and lumber prices are going to come back down. And I go back to our group, and my wife's like, "Where have you been?" I was like, "I was talking to this guy in the bathroom," and she's like, "What are you talking to the guy in the bathroom
You need to stop
for?"
doing that.
And then I was telling him, this blowhard owns 68 cabins, and he knows the owner of 84 Lumber, blah, blah. I was like, this guy's so full of crap. And then we're leaving, and I go outside, and this guy's getting in his Audi R8, and I'm like, oh, I guess he does own 68 cabins. So,
my bad. I should have never talked to him.
Yeah, I should have got his number.
The bathroom in the urinal. I think I don't know. Is that? I think
it's probably why when a woman has to go to the bathroom, four women have to go with her. It's my analogy.
But I don't know. But I think the urinal thing for guys is a different thing, right? There's a lot of like unwritten and written rules, right? But I don't know. Like, I feel like if at a bar, if you're drinking, you may talk to the guy. But like, if you go to work, you go like once all over. There's no like, hey, how you doing? You don't talk to him. That's like,
no, you're not like, how's that Browns game?
Yeah, how about the Browns? No one's talking about the Browns anymore. It's like you guys have blown it by now.
Well, if they do, it's in the bathroom.
That's true. The Browns are awful, by the way. I mean, I can't. I got to tell you that.
Well, I'm a Steeler fan, so I can't say anything about the
Steelers are awful too. I could say it now after a few years. I'm a Giants fan. I'm enjoying it. I don't know how real it is, but we have a winning record. So, and we've won a championship in the past like 77 years. When the last time the Browns won? Or
I have no idea.
I know I love Mick, but he's more like I love how he's like, the one thing that's funny about him is he loves Ohio State, right? What's your tie into Ohio State football?
So I don't know how much detail I should go. So let's just say there's been an Otto Wayne Fulmer that has had season tickets since the stadium opened.
Okay.
So one of these years they're going to call for 130-year-old Otto Wayne Fulmer to come down.
So your family's had it for that long?
Yeah. So.
So you're named after your grandfather?
I'm named after. So my great grandfather was Otto Henry. My grandfather was Otto Wayne. My dad Otto Wayne, and then I'm the last Otto Wayne because I don't think there's going to be any more Fulmer boys.
So you're the last. What about Dave? Is Dave carrying on?
No, he's got a son Ian and a daughter, and that's it. So I guess Ian could name a son Otto. But,
Ian, come on, help him out. Like, keep the name going. Like,
yeah.
here's your chance to talk to Ian. Tell him. I mean, you made fun of him earlier, but Ian, carry on the family name. Otto.
Yeah, make Uncle Wayne proud, Ian.
So do you go by Uncle Wayne or Otto? What do you go by?
Uncle Wayne by the nephews, but then my friends half Otto, half call me Wayne. So depending on when they met me in my life.
So you change it depending.
Well, in high school, you didn't want to be different, so I went by Wayne, and then in college, I was trying to forge my own path, so I went by Otto. Now I don't care what.
I don't know many Ottos. I don't know many Chays either. So it's like I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so I don't have a preference either.
Interesting. So Ian, that's your chance to carry it on. I mean, how many Ottos are there? How many years back?
Four generations. So
I mean, don't fuck it up, Ian. I mean,
that's right.
You shouldn't do it. This is the new thing I'm trying to do. We should use reverse psychology on him. Like, dude, fuck fourth, fifth generation. You don't need to do that, Ian. You be you, Ian. You do you. But so how old is your nephew, Ian?
24, 23.
And he's in the military now. Is he still? He's in the Guard now.
Yep.
What's he do?
He's a combat medic.
In the Ohio National Guard?
Yep.
Or, okay. How did he pick that? What was his did you talk to him about it or not really?
I don't know why he decided to be a medic.
Ian? Is he local? So these more people I'm drawing this out. I think we have to have a Fulmer
he's local.
podcast soon, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, his unit's in Delaware, I think.
Nice.
So
excellent.
So they're deployed. His unit got deployed again, but since he was deployed within 18 months or something, he got to stay back. So he's at the.
Oh, you still got over there?
He's at the rear detachment at the armory, doing whatever, playing euchre all day long or something. I don't know what they're doing.
Euchre? Are you a euchre guy?
Been a while since I played, but I used to play.
I can't get into euchre. Like, there's a couple guys. They're all the guys behind the camera. Like,
yeah, it's probably been 10 years since I played.
Well, the problem with euchre is like I get it, but then like if you play with somebody, they have their different euchre rules. I'm like, we do this, we do that, and my family is uber competitive about anything. It's like we can't even play like phase 10, anything like that, because someone's getting a fight, awful things are gonna be said. So euchre.
Yeah, Betty and I can't play board games because we'll get in an argument and because we're too competitive.
Yeah, but I think card games are worse though. You know what I mean? Because I play to win. Like, so I have like, you play like my brother-in-laws. They may not listen, but like my two brother-in-laws, if we were playing, we used to play cards. I haven't played cards with them in 5 years. I won't play. Their whole goal is to piss me off. They don't care if they win or not. They just do everything. Like, I could be in last place and they will just continue to just like beat me down to the point where I freak out. And I can't understand how you don't want to win. They would rather piss me off than win the game. I don't understand that. I always want to win. You know what I mean? And I've had my father say the most awful things to me about phase 10. Don't stay away from phase 10, people. It will ruin your.
I don't even know what phase 10 is.
Oh, it's actually a fun card game if you don't play with your family. but I've enjoyed having you on. I'm glad you finally fell under my spell and resisted coming on. But I think I couldn't be happier to have you on. I think it was really kind of humbling to me because we are so different. Like you talked about your family and coming on, and we grew up at the same time, but so different. I mean, it was just surprising to hear you say tonight that something in the nation's history, the half the nation compelled you to do something completely different. Something I don't, I never experienced because I always want to do it. So I want to thank you for your service and thank you for changing the script and answering the call because, a lot of people did that. Especially during that time, there were a lot of people, other veterans out there during that time that I think they have a lot of regret. And I felt like that I got that from you. Like there was a little bit of regret, like I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. And I feel bad that I didn't, but don't. I think it took balls to even say, hey, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to leave college to do that. So I appreciate your service to our country.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing and the awareness. and the outlet for veterans to reach out and have a community and a friend network they might not have. And yeah, I don't have any regrets of not having to go to battle. And I'm more thankful that I didn't have to, but I'm extremely appreciative of you and all the others that, actually had to go.
There's no need for that. That's what I'm just saying. Like, one of the things I want to end this, I want his family to hear this, is one of the things he wrote, and I didn't say this when, and I think you probably saw this from the couple hours I've been sitting with him, was, he said, other than being a father and a husband, serving his country is one of your biggest honors. And I think that means a lot, especially when you listen to a story about someone that didn't want to have anything to do with it and totally changed their whole game plan. And like, trust me, man, like I have a ton of respect for you. I think a lot of, and that's the important thing about this, is there's no comparing. There's no comparison of thing. I actually think you have way more courage than I ever did, because this is something I always wanted to do. I don't know if that makes sense, but when I look at your story, I'm super inspired, because if I've always done what I wanted to do, and if I didn't, I've been kind of selfish, but that's I don't know if that makes sense, but thank you for answering the call, like many of you did during that time. And I honestly want to thank my dad for telling me that I wasn't, because it would have changed my life, I think. And my dad was right. I don't say that very often, but but thanks, Dad.
I don't know, like, Veterans Day and things like that are awesome. And I have buddies that are veterans that, when City Barbecue's giving away a meal, they go and all that. But when someone says thanks for your service, I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, think it was more of a privilege for me to serve than they think it was that I served.
I think this is the dilemma we have. Yeah. Like, so this podcast, it's so funny. Like a couple weeks ago, we had an author on who's been on some like pretty heavy hitting podcasts. Like, it's like we can talk. Like, I'm guilty of it. I listen to podcasts. I'm trying to make this the best it can be, right? Yeah. So I listen to Jocko like more than I want to. I don't know why I do. It's more. I know why I do. I'm going to say this honestly. It's the guests, right? It's not about him, right? But what I'm talking about is like every veteran that served. We need to understand something very clearly. We are a small percentage of people. Like, whether you went to Desert Storm, whether you went to Afghanistan, fuck that. Like, if you've ever raised your right hand and took the oath that not many people have, you're my brother, you're my sister, and you need to remember that. Like, it needs to be like, if you get the 10% discount at Lowe's, fucking take it.
Right.
On Veterans Day, when someone thanks you, accept it. We're a small percentage, and I think that's the one thing that I'm struggling with what the answer is. I don't know, but I think we've been. There's all these people like, oh, I'm going to compare myself to. If I'm going to compare myself to Jocko, yeah, my service is shit. Yeah, but I'm not putting myself up against him. I know how I sacrifice. I know how my family sacrifice. I know that I serve my country, and that's important to every veteran. I don't care if you served, honestly, for 4 years. I don't care if you served for a year and you medical it out. Any person, if you've never raised your right hand and said that oath, then honestly,
go sit down.
Yeah. Like you have no idea what that means if you've never towed the line, and I think that's important. That's why it's like a personal mission to like beat you down to have you come on. I won because you came on, actually. So we're talking about winning, but it's important because one of the first things you said to me, and why I put my claws into you really fast, was like, my story is not important. Every story is important. Every veteran's story is important. And a lot of veterans today, especially with now that it's become, everybody wants to have done these great things. That's not what it's talking about. I honestly, if you're my brother and sister, if you ever raised your right hand and said that oath, that like, if you've never said that oath, or if you've ever had the honor to administer that oath to someone, it's a big fucking deal. So thank you for your service. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me.
I would have beat you down in the next few months eventually, but I'm glad I finally won. Now we got your brother on.
Yeah.
And Space Force guy. What do we call him?
Colonel Eric Dormany.
Eric? We might.
I need to invite him. I don't think I've invited him.
I mean, get him. He's on the group. He's got to be.
Yeah. So if you can do him remote, he's not going to. I don't think he can get over here from Colorado.
This is why I love kids. By the way, my son is upstairs texting me about what I need to be doing tomorrow. I love it. My wife left on a plane about an hour ago, but now my 17-year-old's got me under. Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate it, buddy. So tonight is kind of a, it gets to the point of what we talked about, which is the dark part of the night, where we honor a veteran that decided to, what I'm going to continue to say, make a bad decision. It took their life. And this soldier, she's an Army soldier. And I had the opportunity last night trying to make sure I was doing due diligence to talk to her sister. And this was a young lady who it was super successful in life, was always trying to help other people, was a huge mental health awareness person, and ultimately ended up taking her own life. And as her sister said, the last thing she said to me was, suicide has no face, which is honestly true. Like, if you look at what happened, I don't think her family was blindsided. And it's very important that before I talk about the Soldiers Night, there's some things that I'm going to try to talk about and try to incorporate here to try to really talk about this. But I know I'm the worst person to talk to. I don't say the right thing 80% of the time. That's all right. But there's 5 things I want to talk to you about tonight that talks about with someone that you're helping that has an emotional pain. First thing is you need to ask them about whether or not they're actually thinking about killing themselves. That's a difficult conversation to have, but that's the one thing is you need to understand ask them what they're talking about. Keep them safe, reduce access to lethal items in places. Honestly, it's hard to say, I feel bad sometimes about that we were sitting here drinking, but that could be that lethal place or something. But you definitely need to have the responsibility to take those measures away from that person that's having those issues, whether it's firearms or alcohol, if that's triggering. Be there, which I think is the most important. You need to listen. I heard a lot of people tell me I'm the worst listener. I actually am a lot of the time, but people think listening is a passive thing, but it isn't. You need to be active. Listen to what they're saying. Acknowledge their feelings, which are important. It's not trying to understand their feelings, but to listen to their feelings, how they're feeling. Help them connect, and that's the number one thing is connecting to the right people. You may not be the right person. I may not be the right person, right? They need to connect to the right person. Obviously, the best right person is a professional, and we talked about that many times. You can call the 988 suicide crisis line. You can call 1-800-273-8255. You can text, but that person needs to find the person to connect to. And one of the things you have to understand is you may not be the right person, and that may hurt, but fuck that. Help them find the right person, and also stay connected. Follow up on when they talk to you the next day, when all the alcohol wear off. Talk to them, follow up, make sure they're talking to the right person, and that's important. So I'm going to try to keep incorporating this. Obviously, this is a call out to any medical professionals that are out there. If you can come on and help, we want to have you on a podcast to talk about it, because God knows I don't say the right thing most of the time. So those 5 things, we're going to try to incorporate these into the podcast now, and being important. But now we'll talk about and honor the veteran that committed suicide here recently. And like I said before, I don't hold anything back on this. It's a bad decision. I've thought about it a lot of times. It's a selfish decision. So tonight we're going to honor an Army veteran, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Amy Quinn, 32 years old. Amy took her life on September 4th, 2022. Amy was born June 3rd, 1990, and over the course of her lifetime, she lived in 3 different states: Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Ohio, and 2 countries, Germany and the Horn of Africa. Amy served in the United States Army for 15 years. She began her career as a combat medic and later reclassified as a human resource specialist. Amy's unique approach to leadership and her calling to help soldiers made her an invaluable part of many of the units she served throughout her career. At the time of her death, Amy was scheduled to relocate to Saipan for her next duty assignment in January 2023. Amy attended Penn State University while serving her country and had planned on completing her degree while she was stationed in Saipan. From everything that you've read about her, Amy inspired, influenced, and cared for her soldiers, friends, and just any person she came across. She is survived by her father, Robert, her mother, Sean Schwartz, and her 3 siblings, Kelsey Quinn, Courtney Quinn and Matthew Quinn. And like her sister said and shared with me last night, she was doing some amazing work of helping other people. And I think that's a lot of things that happen with veterans is we feel like we have to help others when we don't help ourselves. So, again, if you are feeling like you need to talk to someone or you need someone to talk to, or you know someone that needs someone to talk to, you definitely need to have them reach out to the Veterans Crisis Hotline. You can dial 988 or you can dial 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255. So, again, that's my least favorite part of the night. And hopefully somebody's listening. And like I said before, I'm sorry to her family, and thank you last night for connecting. I think her friends, or she might be listening, and it meant a lot to me last night to be able to honor your sister. And I'll pass on that message. Is definitely, suicide does not have a face. There's no cookie cutter for it, but I think talking about it is my way to hopefully help it out. So now for more light, we'll finish with a quote. I did not go with, as much as I wanted to, I definitely wanted to go with a Few Good Men quote after I found out that you actually went to law school. I'm going to stick back with logistics because I thought I went with a movie quote a couple weeks ago. It was a pretty good one, but I chose a different quote here. So I went with Mr. Dwight D. Eisenhower. People might have heard of him, but you talked about your original MLS as a 88 Mike truck driver, supply, logistics, and that's one of the most overlooked fields in the military. Like, look what's happening in the Ukraine. If you want to see how important logistics are, but as Dwight D. Eisenhower once said, "You will not find it difficult to prove the battles, campaigns, and even the wars that have been won or lost primarily because of logistics." And then to add it in, it's like, you can't handle the truth, Tom Cruise. I can add it into that. It was so easy to do that way. But thank you, everybody, for listening tonight. Before we go, though, we do have some other giveaways that are coming from our, one of our sponsors, TAC Pack. The team here in Columbus, they have some stuff that we're going to give away. Don't know yet, but I'll figure it out tomorrow how it's going to come. But we're going to give away if you haven't seen this, I've been wearing some TAC Pack. This is a pretty cool shirt. You're not getting this one. Somebody did mention this, like Glocks or us, but we have a TAC Pack Jurassic Park extra large t-shirt that we're going to give away. We've got a 511 fanny pack. I'm giving this away because my son said that there's no way we're going to go anywhere in public with you wearing this, but no, it's a great giveaway from them, a 511 tag. And then most importantly, we've got a couple pairs of Walkins advanced digital muffs that we're going to give away. So pay attention to the website. And we're going to figure out how to get these to you guys who are local. Like I said before, if you're not local, we'll definitely ship them out to you for the winning thing. And then before we close, we've had some big news today, right? I think it's big news to the guys looking. So today we found out that we're officially a LLC, give me the word? What is it? A nonprofit corporation. Say it louder. In the state of, we have our lawyer back there who's doing the thing, but a nonprofit organization here in Ohio. We're on our journey to get tax exempt. So thank you for everybody that's helped along the way. It means a lot. And the tax exemption thing, hopefully become a 501c3 so we can actually start generating some revenue and making some money to help the people here in Central Ohio, especially veterans that are struggling with suicide, like Amy and a lot of the veterans that we're losing here in Ohio, which is unacceptable. So again, Otto, thank you for coming in on episode 18.
Thank you.
Dave, we'll be in touch. Not McLean. I'll talk to you tomorrow anyways, but his twin brother, to get him on here, I feel like we have to. It's going to be a good sequel. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks.